Yep.
So, see what time Tim says he's coming on, so that's good.
Yeah. That was a good topic. This is.
Thank you. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about what happened
Yep.
Saturday in the game. It wasn't anything big, but I'm thinking to myself, we talked about balancing stuff, and I'm like, range combat has been a problem since day
We talked about that. We should have one when we talked about whatever other balance and stuff. So yep. So I think it's a good one.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, am I gonna hit the wrong button here? Good. Make sure we're good here. Sound check, sound check. Oh, no one said hi in chat yet, so it shows 8, so I'm like...
Yeah, good. Yeah.
44.
So I even made some notes for this one, so yeah. I usually make a few notes, but I have some of the...
Good.
Yep.
Here's some theories. This is a lot of experience and theoretical, right? A lot of it, it'll be a good mix.
And some hands-on and some kind of advice and then with the usual caveats, meaning you think about what suits you for your game style and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But we're out of order this time.
Crossing the void, beyond the wall of worlds, and along the arc of time. Well, those not of our place are age.
I think Wednesday we'll have to push back to our old regular time of 8, just because of
light.
I got some.
It is too easy.
I got to take my son to
that
a
there are
late
two
doctor's
sides to every
appointment
coin.
on
Okay.
Wednesday.
The reality
I think
is
we'll go
far
8 instead of
worse.
7 on this
For
Wednesday.
law flirts with tyranny. Chaos invites freedom. Evil consumes all it knows. Good accepts suffering.
Let me see.
Yeah, we
And
had a
those
game
in the
today, so
middle?
we had the
Oh, nice.
They are worse.
Eid Fest.
for they know
So I'm going to
nothing
publish the
but
menu
self.
for that. So
The
we
Codex
went
Infernum
through it. So
and the
yeah, we were
Codex
so hungry we had to
Exalted.
take a
Two source books that
cut a
bring
break to
in-depth
go eat.
knowledge about beings of all dispositions.
Cool.
From the farthest reaches of the heavens.
Coco,
The
Phantom,
darkest
Lando,
depths
welcome.
of
Can you guys hear me? Sound check, sound
Both
check.
of these titles come with new,
Hopefully they can-
full-color art,
Hopefully.
new creatures, new powers like possession, and a multitude of information.
Lando, cool. I
providing
just
lore,
got your Discord. That's
background,
awesome to hear.
names, mechanics, stats, and much more.
Good.
These incredible tomes are filled with demons and angels, devils and celestials, unleashing the powers of good and evil, law and chaos on your table. The Codices Infernum and Exaltum, bringing creatures hallowed and profane into your adventures. Pledge and share today.
Sounds good. That's good. So it's not shut off like last time. That's funny. Okay.
Join the fray.
Right. Yeah, be prepared for the next time. So, here's a funny thing that, like, Coco and Little Bird and Darling and all the Slav Squad people are going to have to learn to live with. There ain't nobody giving them special hero points at GaryCon. Because I don't do it, because
no points at GaryCon.
Yeah, you remember that, Anna, last year. There are none, so you're on your own.
But you gave other benefits. You gave
I did.
A rest instead.
Yeah, and also if you did certain actions, I gave them out. So, oh yeah, absolutely. So, convention play is different. So at the con, yeah, but it's fun. It is a blast. Looking forward to some fun times.
Yep.
Gotta get through the next 2 weeks, though. Next 2 weeks are through to the fundraiser. That's what I forgot. It just reminded me, Lando, what I got something else I gotta do. I'll just leave it up because I don't want to snip while I'm live streaming. That probably snipping is something's not a good idea. I'll bring it up here. There we go. What a mess that is. All my events are scheduled for GaryCon and Founders and Legends. I can't spell either, you know? It's just Anna, my gosh.
I can't spell either, so any language.
That's right, you got multiple languages, you know.
Yeah, and I'm bad at all of them, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll be asking Michael once again for everyone's info for that. Anna's going to be one compiling it. So yeah, for the GaryCon foldout, absolutely. Yeah, I know, 44 on there. Some of you aren't even that old. Yeah. So yeah, I feel I feel like an ancient something or other coming up here. Look at this. Oh my God, what's this? Vault-Tec, yes, no. Fallout shirt. There you go. Oh, look at that. Perfect timing. GaryCon Live came in exactly as we went live after the preludes. Good to see everyone from GaryCon Live, and I hope you all had a really great and fantastic event. We do have some giveaways tonight. Please feel free. It's exclamation point drawing. Hope you're all doing well. I got the legendary map maker Anna B. Meyer with me. And
hello.
Is he even more of a legend? The ever mysterious Tim.
No, he's definitely a legend.
Yeah, you are a true legend here.
He's mythical.
He's mythical, or he's something. He's yes. I mean, how many of you out there have your own head as an emote? There you go. So that answers that question. Mm-hmm. So thanks, Garner. Thank you so very much. Let me see if I can shout you out. So Garner and Catacomb Gaming. Garner is running his game for Catacomb Gaming on GaryCon channel. While GaryCon people are here, let's show that real quick. So hang in there as I just came up with a really crazy thing I should do. while we have a whole bunch of GaryCon people on the channel here. Give me 1 second because this I did this for Garner and we're good to go. Look at this lineup he has. If I can frickin' find it, Garner, there we go.
Yeah, you have to find the right.
I gotta
button
find
here.
it and not crash the damn stream. How's that sound?
Yeah.
I gotta do both. I gotta find it, not crash the stream. There we go. Look at this group, everyone, for Garner's game, 10 a.m. on Saturday, right after the ever mysterious Tim finishes. Oh, thanks, Moose. There we go. Look at this group. Is that crazy? Hidden Shrine of Tomoacon. They're running for the fundraiser at Feast of Fiends and Garner's DMing. We got AJ winners and 4 of the members of Legends of Evantris playing. What a great group that is. Unbelievable. So, and Little Bones is coming in too. Whoa! Bones!
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bones, what's going on? Yeah, no, it's we got Mikey and Richie. They had a Kickstarter for their setting that topped $4 million. Everyone, so unbelievable work by them. What a great group. But Garner, I'm really excited you're participating, and the GaryCon's participating. You guys are going to raise a lot of money for the charity. We got to surpass $25,000. We got to figure out how to do it, and this is one of the ways we do it. So, oh man, thank you all. So I just wanted to share that. Also, my Founders and Legends games are scheduled. We're in Linwood B for these. I noticed that Heidi Gygax is in here the same time I am in this Linwood B area, which is pretty funny for this. And this is 3 days of Forgotten Temple of Tharisden. You don't have to participate in all 3. Yeah, I'm running it from start to finish. Now, Curtis and Brett are playing all 3 days already. So I got
What's the plan for when you kill the characters off in the day 1?
I make a Fritz Winchester the second. I make a Rumple Foreskin the second.
Fresh from the clone.
You have a second and a third of like 4 generations in 3 days here. Yeah.
Yes. Come on. You know someone's going to go poof at the end, right? You know it's going to happen. I can't wait. So, but that's what I'm running. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 9 a.m. We're going to have a Gabbin in there sometime. We're also going to have a Gabbin Prelude show for GaryCon Wednesday night. A 3-hour tour special, because that's what Duff told me I had to do, from 6 to 9 p.m. Central.
Oh, wow.
6 to 9 Central, Wednesday before GaryCon starts. We're going to try and get a whole bunch of guests to come through into the club.
Cool.
Yep. So Anna and I will be on that. So, of course.
Yep.
Yes.
That will be. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you all for coming in, and let's have some fun tonight and talk about the wonderful world of DMing and gaming. And our topic tonight, we had a balancing topic about everything. We needed to go over this because ranged combat has been a problem since first edition. A little bit tweaks here and there, and I guarantee you that Tim and I will have some arguments about this.
Oh, I will be part of my pulpit moment will come here today too. So don't worry.
Sure we'll have differing points of view.
Please also note that we're more than happy to hear your excuse me, I got a little bit of this tickle cough from the audience as well.
Got emotional. You just got emotional.
Yeah, I got emotional about ranged combat. Classic D&D reprints are already here. This is one like fourth of the pile that Patrick sent me. So there you go. We're going to rely on a couple books. I'm going to go into the second edition Glory era and talk about players and options, combat and tactics, and spells and magic books. All right. We're going to talk about those a little bit too, and some other hidden gems.
I might be a little bit less opinionated than I was when we talked about aerial combat and adventuring. So just a hair little bit less opinionated on this one.
So Curtis says the Anna Meyer doctrine. Share, Curtis, and the audience what the Anna Meyer doctrine is with everyone in chat. And that is shoot melee combat whenever possible.
Exactly. Yep. And then two crits left and right. Yep.
Shoot melee combat whenever possible.
Yep.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. So what about Tim? What do you hope to get out of this discussion?
Well, when I read Art of Balancing Ranged Combat, I primarily thought of non-magic. I was thinking archery.
Yeah, well, that's just good. We're going to talk about that. But
we're talking about it.
We're going to talk about also your spells, and Tim has created something that I don't use that we're going to is spell crits. Tim's got spell crits and fumbles.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have that. And I'm not
That's the thing. With crits comes fumbles and
right.
People have to remember that.
So
Yeah.
we're going to get there. We're going to get there, and I'm going to give a little history lesson here. Please, hopefully this doesn't bore you, but let's go back to the beginning. First edition. We're not going back to Holmes Basic, but first edition. First edition Player's Handbook. Fighters, rangers, even paladins can all use bows, right? And for some reason,
And should.
Absolutely, it should. Elves got +1 hit with bow, so they had an advantage. But bows felt underwhelming, right? And if you go into the back, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Back then, the Tim Sheets doctrine was missile weapon, pole arm, sword or primary melee weapon, and then a alternate a melee weapon that was blunt or something like that. So you had all your bases covered.
Right, because we had no feats in our proficiency system. It was just weapons.
Yeah,
and there's no specialization here either. So thank you all for the hype train. Really appreciate it. We're going back to the beginning here, and here's your table. Now these ranges are in inches or tens of feet, right? For what's going on. So a longbow goes out to 70, but you could fire for some reason 2 arrows around, short longbow, 1 crossbow bolt heavy, and the crossbow still did only 1d6, right? It didn't really matter what kind of crossbow you had. Light crossbow is 2 to 5. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
2 to 5, 1 to 4, and the other one was 2 to 7, 1 to 6.
Yeah,
right?
it was the same as a bow, and you only got 1 shot round. No one's using a heavier light crossbow back then.
Well, the ranges. Well, the advantage is you can lay down when you shoot it.
True. That's true.
You can be ready to go. Like if you're gonna try to surprise somebody, you got to draw your bow. It's gonna creak. It's gonna make noise. With crossbow, you can just be ready so you can surprise better.
That's true, but that's minor stuff, man. Right? It is. It's in old school 1E. That's minor.
Considering the average human, 0 level has 1 to 5 hit points.
I understand that.
They're mostly lethal except for adventuring types.
Okay, well, shoot at an iron golem with a bow.
I said, yeah. For the purpose they were invented, they are effective against their target audience.
But they were not fun to play back then. But longbow was okay. Longbow was fine, but crossbows definitely. No one's playing crossbows. No one's throwing, except for mages, throwing daggers and darts, right? No one's throwing hand axes.
But darts were surprisingly lethal in old school. They did a couple of points in damage, and you can throw a lot of them.
You could throw a lot of them, but they did like 1 to 2 points of damage. There was no.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't too bad. I mean, if you threw a lot of them, then you still added up.
Yeah. I think it was 1 to 3. It's 1 to 3, 1 to 2, or something like that, right?
Exactly.
Something like that.
I mean, come on, and if you throw like 4 of them per round, then damn, it's not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. But slings are okay. But
slings are handy to carry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're also good for thieves. Short bows are,
Yeah, you can hide them and have them anywhere.
Thieves could use short bow till Unearthed Arcana came out, right?
Oh, was that the case?
I think that's true.
Thieves were not allowed to use short bow until Unearthed Arcana came out. Yeah. So from this is early on. We'll say 1980, right? We're here. Before Unearthed Arcana comes out, the man of all men, the legend himself, comes up with something and it's in one of the greatest dragon magazines of all time. All right, this cover, Dragon 45, right? And that's Len Kafka comes out and goes, bowmen suck. I'm going to do something about it, right? Len Kafka,
so he watches all the Errol Flynn Robin Hood movies and writes an article.
Yes, he does. And he doesn't say about Hawk the Slayer in here either, but he talks about Errol Flynn. And yes, the Archer subclass. So this is the first class outside of all the base Player's Handbook classes that we ever add in the game. First one. Because of this article by Leonard. So what year was this actually? What year is this one? It says in message there. I don't even remember. January 81. So this is really, really early. I mean, I'm not even a freshman in high school. Yeah. I mean, it's super early. And And Leonard comes up with these great idea with ranges and size modifiers, which is, once again, I don't, it's too much. It's too much, but it's really
Size
cool.
modifiers make sense because I mean, obviously, shooting a giant is
Yep.
a lot easier.
That's true. That is true. But like, once again, it's like versus armor, weapons versus armor class. It's gonna slow the game down calculation wise.
Well, I mean,
But there you have the kind of the dichotomy between a game or simulation.
Exactly.
Meaning, do you want it to be a game that is easy to play and it flows according to simple, easy to understand and useful rules, or do you want a simulation? And that's the going back and forth. Meaning, war games are much more simulation-like, so to speak, but role-playing games tend to go towards more gamification, and that's one of these things. You simply have to come up with how much simulation do you want, or do you want a straightforward game, or do you want a lot of simulation elements into it?
Jay, it's no more really cumbersome than a dwarf and a giant fighting, right? Dwarf gets plus and the giant gets a minus.
It's every time though.
It should
So
just be
if I look up
armor
between
class
a
built in.
dwarf,
Yeah.
what
No,
a
you
dwarf,
don't. The player should.
I know, but I'm OCD. You know that. So all right.
Yeah.
They had in third edition had an interesting thing because then you got armor class adjustment due to size. So that was built into the AC system. You got worse armor class, but then in order to make sure that it wasn't more difficult for small people to hit each other, that meant that they got pluses to hit these harder classes. So it was kind of weird because you got to hit bonuses and armor class bonuses and with classes. So that was one way of both complicated and simplified at the same time, depending on how which foot you were seeing it on.
You could actually just ignore the pluses for size because you can say somebody larger is easier to hit but harder to damage because
exactly
you got to make it through all his flesh. You make it through his, and then of course,
true.
You know, there's more tissue to have to go through, and you know what's the penetration of your.
And they also they don't have that many parts of the body that are. They're actually more parts that aren't that vulnerable, so to speak. Right. So that might be too.
So Leonard comes up with this genius table and a lot of other adjustments and all, and creates a fighter subclass. And you can also make them archer rangers too, which is really cool. They also get some limited spell ability, which a lot of people go, why? And I think he just wanted to make it D&D like.
He said, because I want to.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. He said that he answered that during a stream.
Yeah.
Because I want to. That's right. Humanoids and stuff can become them. So he created a really cool class, which we found out these ranges, and these ranges out to 660, we could never use in the old day because we're playing paper and pencil. We're not full mini and terrain at this point, 1981, 82, 83. Yeah, we got the fishy box, right? We got all the lead figures on the table, and our area of playing is about this much, right? With all about a foot and a half by foot and a half.
Sometimes we had expand, we ratio scales, and when we did some larger things, I think you said like, oh well, there's a gap here. It's like 50 more feet, So that's
right. That's true. That's true. We did do things like that.
Times.
So turns out this class is super nasty, especially at 7th level. And what happened, Tim, in the early days, whenever an archer came on the field, and I had some high-level baddies on the field?
They would always try to kill the archer first, and the archer would try to kill them first.
Yeah. A lot of big beast crushing hands, a lot of walls of force up, because those archers were doing, a 7th level archer could do easily 30 points of damage in just shooting 3 arrows, and you've seen it. So
really, the best thing to do to them is to actually cast darkness
or charge them.
Well, yeah, if you want to get close to them, but you can just totally screw with them so that they're always trying to move so they can see. Yeah. And the only way to move is closer and closer, and you keep putting another obscuring spell on them, and then finally, melee range.
Winning initiative becomes vital with this character. So Len creates this class, and then that's when we said, well, why can't we start doing our own? That's when I created my own bounty hunter. Necromancer got created after that, so we went on from this point. All right, so we're here in the 80s. Let's take a quick step back, and before we get on Arcana, Tim and Anna, if you're playing that early, what are the early range spell issues going on in the early 80s with the game? I'm gonna tell you some of the ones. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. the problem I've had since the inception is that the rules and the play styles hasn't really been catered to ranged combat barely at all. Meaning,
True.
first of all, it's mostly dungeons, especially early on. You wouldn't rarely in an environment where the bow or crossbow made sense more than
True.
occasionally. It was a weapon you used 1 or 2 attacks and then you were close up and it wasn't useful. So to me, it's something that is there and it sounds cool on paper, but it's something that most play styles and especially old school early on was not done for it and or was not made for. So the play style I think is really the killer in this. That you need to have, meaning the way now in my campaigns ranged weapon makes a lot more sense because a lot of the encounters don't start at 30 feet, 50 feet. They don't even start at 300 feet. They might start at a mile. So it all of a sudden makes sense, and there's a lot of other aspects that we have to get into later. But the play style and the ranges, meaning how big is the environment? The environment needs to be bigger. The scenes need to be way bigger than 100 feet for ranged weapon to even make sense. Otherwise, you can just run up and do it. Yeah.
One of the things we're talking about, the thing that I think affected combat more often back then, and what can be used to help maximize your missile weapons is haste and slow, because those were area effect.
Mm-hmm.
You slow your enemy down, you're going to get more shots on them because they're not going to reach as fast. And then, of course, things like entangle, they're all wrapped up, and you just, take them down. So those are the biggest range things I think of.
Yeah, and Sam has a really good point, meaning a lot of the game balancing is that bows, especially bows, have seen in many game systems have been overpowered, so to speak. And in the real world, one of the limitations was that it was damn hard you need to train for years to be useful. And they were also used for indirect fire as much or probably more than they were used for direct fire. So because bows are an indirect fire weapon at range. So they were used, you put like 100 longbowmen in an area, and then they shot like this, and they volleyed in hundreds of arrows, thousands of arrows.
So it comes down behind their shield.
Exactly. So you rain down. So they were used, bows in medieval warfare and ancient warfare was used more as artillery than a precision weapon.
I agree.
And that's something that is completely missing from D&D rules at all. It doesn't appear anywhere in the rules.
They tried a battle system and they didn't do very well with it.
Exactly. And that is something that, so in a sense, and that's something I want to, I'm experimenting with, I've used it before. When you have a company of longbowmen or bowmen, then you can treat them as a siege weapon. That they are an area effect weapon, so to speak, in that sense, much rather than individual, so to speak. Crossbows are different. They are used more sniping weapons, so to speak, and require much less skill to use. But that means that they should be slow. They should be easy to learn, and they do a lot of damage, but they take a heck of a long time to reload. And I think that's that's the only real reason I can think of why bows always can shoot twice. That's simply because crossbows should be allowed to shoot at least once a round. But to me, I think a heavy crossbow should only be able to be fired every third round. And then
it's every other now.
Yeah, exactly. And then they should be, so you need like 2 actions to reload the thing. Or you can say 3 actions. And then when you become a master, you can do it in 1 or 2 if you're really smart, trained, so to speak. So, and bows should be 1 attack per action, so to speak, unless you're really good at it.
And it's a good point with this. So a couple observations here. Len's right. It's Errol Flynn era with him running around with a bow by himself that he goes, well, at D&D, the Rangers run around with a bow by himself, or the fighter or the so I want to make sure that is utilized in the game, and it may not be realistic to what happened in the medieval world, but this is a fantasy game.
Oh yeah, exactly. I want both. I want both ranged weapons to be used for sniping and used as area denial artillery, so to speak. So I want to use both because that makes the battlefield much more rich and varied.
And the missile weapons, really, I mean, arrows are what drove metallurgy and armor. what first got plates added to armor was the arrows.
Mm-hmm.
And they were figuring out because arrows can go through chainmail when you use a bodkin head on them. And so they're like, damn, we're getting everyone's shot. So it worked great for fighting with swords, but now it's like, darn. So they had to add plates. So they started, and then, bows, it was like a race against time, which one's technology and stuff works better. And then, we finally culminated with like masterful, amazing armor to protect them from arrows. That's why nobles wore them, because they didn't want to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
So, getting onto the spell part of it, here's some of my observations about low level. A lot of us are playing a little bit with miniatures, but if you ever notice, Tim, 20 by 30 room, and we have 6 characters in there, monsters, just isn't realistic. But that's how we played, because that's what was on the paper in like whatever adventure you're running. Right? We never did, and this is where it's a little different now with the way we play with miniatures. And I don't let all the figures get in. We had the whole party smashing into a room.
I would say it depends on the weapon they're using. If they're all using short swords, then they can all pile in there.
I'm talking about us back in 1980, 182. That wasn't the case. You had people with two-handed swords. It was not never the case.
No.
Oh yeah, there was. Absolutely.
I mean, I would say you can't.
I'm just saying that's how we were playing.
Well, two-handed swords need 8 feet of space.
I understand that, but we had 6, 7, 8 characters packed into a room that there was no way with all those monsters. I'm just saying this is what we did. You're thinking like you now, not as a 12-year-old. I'm telling you. Yeah. You're thinking like you as a 56 or whatever, 55.
I don't know. I had Leuven and fencing mostly. So I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
But
what we did, we had a small hex sheet, a game mat, the hex mat that we put out. That each hex was, I think it was 100 feet, and so we used a big. So we had or a square. We experiment with both hex and squares. So what we had was that the hex that was the party was in, we did everything detailed. And around hexes meant that you had ranged combat and movement and maneuver and stuff like that between the hexes during battles and sieges and stuff. So you had an overarching picture. So you can see, okay, there's a bunch of cavalry coming this direction, or there's a dragon approaching from over there, and you can see him 600 feet away. And he's not here yet, but you have to start taking into account, what do we do now, because he might be here in 2 rounds or 3 rounds. So we had, and that's something that I miss in most D&D games or role-playing games in general, is that everything is confined to this little thing and the rest of the world doesn't exist. And in warfare or combat, or even in indoor combat, I want to know what happened outside of this immediate surroundings, because that makes much more fun, and especially for ranged combat, because that gives someone with a bow or a crossbow a mission to make sure that protect from what's coming from the outside, so to speak.
So that's why swords are so dominant in D&D rather than polearms. True, Sam. No, some more spell-like effect issues.
Yeah.
Fireball bounce back.
Okay.
We never, that was a spell area effects. Yeah, good.
I did. It's 330,000 cubic feet, so it'll fill a 300-foot corridor. 10 foot by 10 foot by 300. So you blast a fireball.
Right. We kind of forgot.
I actually did the math where if you do a fireball on the ground, it actually increases the radius because it's a hemisphere, not a ball.
Right. And that's another thing.
It works out to actually about 5 more feet radius.
Yeah. That's why they removed. Now in the rule is simply the range from the origin of the spell. Yeah. It's 2-dimensional in whatever dimension you want. It's simply it's 60 feet or whatever the range is from the point of origin.
Nerfing needs to be done, nerf away.
Yeah.
So there were issues with spellcasting early on. A lot of stuff that we, and ranging those and figuring out if you hit your own party members, which we kind of probably would hit them a lot more than what we did, especially in these close quarter combats that we were having in these small rooms. So it was an issue. But once again, there are things that are out of our control when we're young and we just don't know, So something comes along that's in an original book, and I want to share this. That did you ever wonder, like on a spell, and you got your normal player's handbook here, right? And you got all your spells. So let me go to this, just to show you how they don't know what they're doing. Like early on, it's still an experimentation. with a game. This is an interesting thing that I think some of you will be like, I didn't even know that existed. And I bet you, I want you to be honest with me. How many of you tell me you did not know this existed? So you come up here and hear all your spells, right? This is original player's handbook. Go to, oh, of course I didn't bring it up. You dumbass. 1 second. Go to your Dungeon Master's Guide. I think it's in the 40s.
You mean increased strength for
No.
missile weapons, larger missile weapons?
Okay. Spellcasting, a subsection of. Now remember, this is a jumbled mess, this book.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, but I don't know when I found this out. This is things you didn't think about with spell explanations that they just decided not to put in the player's handbook, but they put in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And I'll give you an example of a spell that is actually changed that you wouldn't even know. So let's go to a magic user and let's go to 5th level spells. I'm just going to give you one example. 5th level spells, Cloud Kill. Everyone knows you put a Cloud Kill out there and it moves slowly. It kills everything in the area of effect, unless you're higher level. Well, did you know this? Because it's not in the original spell description. It's Cloud Kill. The caster is able to cast the spell so that it forms around him or her, if this is desired. However, any creature staying, this includes the caster, within the cloud for more than 1 round, even if they have 7 or more hit die levels, take 1d10 hit points of damage on the second succeeding round. Now, why is it in here and not in the player's handbook? So they're still experimenting all over the place.
Well, maybe that's need to know only for the DM.
That's a good point,
To
too.
make his bad guy.
It's a lot of points like this where I like the later editions better than the old school. I love the old school when it was the only game in town, but when the later edition came, I like them because they corrected a lot of, they simplified it and streamlined it and made new cool versions of it. Yeah.
So they did, and so there are issues here that they talk about with all the classes in here, and this is in the 40s in the Dungeon Master's Guide. I suggest if you didn't know about it, take a look, and you go, "Oh my gosh!" Because I know we have a lot of old school players here.
But it's also a really cool book because there's so many little cool gems you can find in there. So it's both a fantastic book, a confusing book, and a difficult book, and a fantastic. So it's all over the place in one go, so to speak.
Yeah. So Tim, an observation on something early on in a spell that you're like, I don't like it.
They don't like it, or we did?
No, that you don't like. An early spell, something, or that you loved.
Well, this is pre-Unearthed Arcana, right?
Yeah, pre-Unearthed Arcana. I'll give you mine. I hated the summon insect spell.
No, I like that.
See, I knew we were going to argue with stuff.
I killed one of the Reverse Dungeon characters with it.
Right. Because there's no save.
Or maybe it was Insect Plague, though. Maybe it was... I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, insect. But on the other hand, it's too annoying in real life. So
yeah.
You can't say
if you have a swarm of bees stinging you,
exactly,
you are not.
We all saw Hunger Games.
Yeah. Or like mosquitoes and stuff. There's no save. If you don't have the right protective gear, you're screwed. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on early on that I think they're figuring out. But you're right. It's probably like, oh, they don't realize they're standing in their own Cloud Kill and they're going to take damage. So and then that fight starts. So yeah, it sounds like a fun.
Yeah, but you never would have done that. You never would have stood in it. You would have always in the player's handbook. You never would have thought of that. You would have just.
Right. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that back then, there's still stuff all over the place. Anna's right. It gets more and more concise as we go. Okay. So old school. Unearthed Arcana. Tim's favorite book. Here we go with our big argument.
Well, it was the most sought after book ever because we waited for 10 years for that thing to come out.
So someone posted. Ooh. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I just remember. All right, Player's Handbook, Flame Arrow. That's the one.
Oh yeah, well we changed that.
I know it was lame and milquetoast.
Oh, it's a terrible spell.
For third level, it was like totally dumb.
Watch this. So. Hey Coco, did you like your Flame Arrow spell yesterday morning? So the way we changed it, because that spell is awful. You're dead on correct.
Right. It was for what, 3rd edition or Pathfinder or
We took it. We took a hybridized version of and made it a die 6 and 4 to
stole it.
24 flame. Yeah. So and it's single target automatically hits, and they get a save. And at higher levels, you get 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
seems-
you're dead on right. A terrible spell. Absolutely
On
terrible.
Archer Arcana, what I don't like is the range on Melf's Acid Arrow.
Did you see the post I put?
I don't know what you put on it, but I know that it should be longer than that.
So if we go
But
here,
it's not how it's written. But that's the one thing I don't like about it.
all right. I'm gonna cheese it
Second
here.
level spell. Magic Missile's better than that.
I know. So if we look here, it says, from the dreaded shooting a bow in melee combat to sculpting fireballs to telling Luke Gygax his Melf's Acid Arrow spell is out of range. Let's chat about Journey. The Journey DMs go. Yeah, there you go. So, yes. Yeah. So, I still taunting Luke. Oh, yes, Alex, I'm going to taunt Luke to the end of days, especially. So I've increased the range on it from 60 foot to 90 feet. So it's still short.
That seems more reasonable.
Yeah, but you're right. That's a terrible. It's too short. So specialization comes out in Arcana. And I say to Tim, well, what the hell are we going to do about bow specialization? We have an archer class already.
Solved.
And what did you say back to me?
Oh, I don't know, but I have both.
You have both.
Yeah.
I have 120 feet range on Melf's Acid Arrow in
Oh, you do? Okay.
my get. Yep. But that's based straight from 5e, I think. Yeah.
But if you remember, Luke was trying to shoot at 300 feet.
Oh,
yeah.
But
Don't
it was
Jay,
like
you're
the
okay.
outdoor rules. It's 30 becomes 300 when you go out.
That's what we forgot to discuss early on. I've always, second edition goes to yards. I'm like, no, feet on everything. I don't like yards. Feet. If it says yards in the thing, it just triple it. So
I could do whatever. It doesn't really matter to me.
No, they do not, Rex Fellas. They do not, especially in miniature rules. It depends on the style of play you have. If you do individual initiative, then definitely it could. But if you do group initiative like me, it's based on positioning of the miniatures, because that's the only way I could figure out how to do it without me going insane. And it works real well on stream too. So it's a great question though. So Tim kept it. I did not allow bow specialization early on, and I went with crossbow though instead, because crossbow's in here. So Tim kept it. Tim also keeps double damage dice, right?
Yeah.
I don't do double damage dice because I
different skill sets.
I understand.
Double damage dice for what?
Bows.
In specialization, when you're specialized.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Remember, when you're specialized, it takes 3 proficiency slots in that time, and within point blank range, which is 30 feet for a bow, you do double damage, +2 to hit, +2 damage, and you double dice on the damage.
You're getting that's Cavalier bow specialization gets an extra slot, not in fighter.
Yeah. Or it takes 2. Takes 2 slots. It takes 2 slots,
right?
Not 3.
Proficiency, not 3, but and Cavalier takes 3.
I was thinking. I was thinking with a range. It's 2 slots.
Yeah, that's wrong range, Coco. You're not specialized with your bow. You're a multi-class character, so you're not specialized. 210 is long range. Yeah.
So, but specialization means you're good at that snap shooting.
Yeah.
And you're lethal at that super close, tight range, and you're good at shooting fast.
Right.
You know, the American Indians would practice shooting. At first, they'd shoot at hoops people would throw, and they would shoot at it. And then when they got good at that, they would practice shooting what? Trivia question. What would they practice shooting?
Human heads. Wait, say that again.
Grasshoppers. They would practice shooting grasshoppers as they walk through the grass. Let me tell you.
Wow.
If you shoot it long enough, well enough, that's focus.
I was just kidding.
You know, you could shoot somebody.
Wow.
You could shoot them in the jugular, shoot in the chink, but you're close, so you can see that.
Yeah.
You can see, boom, and you're doing that snapshot, because to shoot that grasshopper that just popped up in the air and it's flying, you know, you're really good at that. So, but you know, and when they get high level, they can shoot 3 around. But I only allow you to do that once, because with Saracen archery, which is historically the closest one we know that would shoot 3 arrows in the air before one hit at 40 yards. So
wow.
That's fast shooting, but they would carry 3 arrows in their hands.
Right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they'd be like, boom, boom, boom. Well, you got to reload now. So you could do that, but you can't just do it every single round unless you have some sort of magic. So I
Interesting.
mean, but now the archer is your longbowman specialty long range guy who's,
Mhm.
who's
600 feet. Yeah, 660
yeah,
in the
he's
game.
shooting. They're shooting further. They're more
But
like the
then
sniper,
and then it's
less
indirect
tactical.
fire. So yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
less
it's
tactical.
indirect fire, so it would not work in a corridor with low root ceiling. It would not work in a forest
Right.
and
Well,
stuff like that. Yeah.
unless they're only 50 feet away, then it would work in a corridor fine.
Oh yeah, because then is you shoot direct. But if
Right.
you I have it if you shoot with the bow longer than short range, then it becomes indirect. You need half
Right.
the height of the range. So if you shoot at 200 feet, you need 100 feet of ceiling height, so to speak, in order for the trajectory
Oh.
to work. It's just a rule of thumb to make it easy to calculate, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I have it in rules that there's like several levels of skill. So first you have unskilled, you don't add more than your ability bonus. So with a bow, that will be dex to hit. And then you're trained with it. Then you add your proficiency bonus as well as your dex bonus to hit. And then you specialize. That means that you add your proficiency bonus to your damage as well as to hit. And then mastery, that means that you learn some cool stuff with it. You get better crits, you do other stuff with it, so you become better at mastery, so to speak. So those are the 4 levels of skill you can have a weapon. You can be an idiot who doesn't know how to use it to a master of it, and then you have special feats that you can learn on top of that to do other stuff with it. So
Yes, Sam. It just depends on the opponent there for armor. So yeah, there's a lot of real world to game conversion over, and this is where like Tim does things and Anna does things and I do things a little differently at this juncture point. And I'm going to tell you what I saw for balance purposes. The archers were going insane. We had archers that were plus 19 to hit. That sounds like 3rd edition stuff, right? Back in Living Greyhawk era, where I got to hit this thing. It's armor class 50. How do I hit it, right?
oh yeah, but that was the 3rd edition and Pathfinder 1.
Hey, Nikki.
Because then armor class, and because you had to hit bonuses, fighters and warriors, they
Right.
got +1 to hit per level, and
Plus
that
all
meant
their
that
stuff.
so the armor class and the to hit just inflated upwards,
Right.
which is kind of, that's what they kind of took care of that in 5th edition, but they had proficiency bonus that only goes up to +6 instead of +20.
Got it.
So that
Wow.
was, but yeah, so it was kind of, and the tricky bit, and I didn't like the inflating armor class and to hit, because that just makes that low level couldn't hit high level at all, and that was kind of a problem.
That's tough too. Absolutely. But,
Yeah.
So what I was finding out at this point, every archer shoots into melee combat no matter what because they rarely miss. That annoyed me, right? And we didn't have a thing against that would stop that. Correct, Tim? Back in the day, archers were.
Yeah, I don't really remember that. Yeah, you didn't. I don't know when you added the rule of if you miss, then you're hitting the other guy.
No, you got to re-roll. So I think
Right.
that was about 15 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. Listen to me, that long ago, 15. Yeah. It was 29 years into the campaign.
Oh young,
Yeah.
so young.
I have it that if you fumble, then you can screw up, so to speak.
Well, that's
Otherwise you
but
don't.
that's a 1 in. That's a 1
That's
in.
5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me make sure, Taryn. I think you're in already. Let me check, Taryn.
I-
So
I would the danger of shooting in the melee, you could,
Mhm.
if you wanted to crunch it, you could make it the further away you are, the more likely you're going to hit the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you're 15 feet away, you're less likely because the travel time is so fast. But if I'm 50 feet away, I'm shooting melee, I am just rolling the dice. I mean, it is just randomly.
And then there you touch on another aspect that is not covered in the rules at all, and that's moving versus stationary targets.
Yeah.
Meaning in the real world, it's way more difficult to hit something that moves versus something that's standing still.
Yeah.
And that is not taken into account. So meaning if you want to hit someone who's running or someone, a rider in a horse that goes like maximum speed past, not to talk about flying targets and stuff, it should be
Right.
way hard to hit them, especially at the distance.
yeah, but once again, a lot of that where do the rules end and reality begins?
Exactly. Then you have game versus simulation.
Right,
Yeah. So, yeah.
and I have
Yep.
my game has been streamlined so that the combats are quick, and I don't
Yeah.
have a round of combat on stream taking an hour, because
Yeah.
that's boring as hell
Yeah. Mhm.
for the players and for the people watching. So
Yeah.
I've had to streamline it. So
Yeah.
shooting in melee combat's a problem. The damage the bows are doing is a problem.
Mhm.
Heavy crossbows, no one's taking still, even with specialization. They're just not taking them yet. What do we do? What did I do?
I think you
I
should
did something.
do crossbows should be easy to learn, do a heck of a lot of damage, and take a long time
Boom!
to reload.
Light crossbows
that
do
I think
die
is-
8.
Yeah. I
Heavies
think,
do die 10. That solved the
Oh, yeah,
problem.
I will
so-
say
so-
that doesn't
yeah.
that doesn't represent reality, but that's all right.
But
I-
that,
But,
that's
I don't
part
care.
of the that's part of the game balancing, so to speak.
Yeah.
You need to work out, and
That's what we did.
one of the reasons that I want, meaning if you can shoot way more often with a bow than a crossbow, and you can, and that means that and you should not have, and because you need to compare them game wise versus regular weapons, so to speak. And you can swing a sword or an axe fairly quickly too. So that means that you can, then you have to delay crossbows, and that takes a lot of the fun out of it. But then make them easy to learn and make them
Both
do
of
a
them.
heck of a lot of damage to compensate for it. And you can, plus the fact that they are more like fire weapon or firearms, because you can shoot direct with them.
Right.
They have such a good high velocity going out that they can, and the bolts have fairly high mass compared to their their flying speed, which means that they keep momentum really high.
Well, Jay, with
Tim.
with your character, when you're talking about the crossbow, I will say I had a character specialized with crossbow.
You
Yeah.
did. You did. You probably had the only one back then.
Not null.
Nodnell. Wasn't
Yeah.
no, Fred DeFarty was darts, right?
Arts.
He was
Yeah.
dart thrower.
Yeah. And you can have double crossbows. You can have 2 crossbows stocked on top of each other. That means that you can
Jay
fire.
would never allow
twice.
that.
No, I would allow that. It's a bit more difficult to learn, and it's a little bit. It takes twice. Then that means that it takes even longer to reload both of them.
Well,
But that means that the first round you're damn lethal. You can shoot twice.
the question is too, what is the actual beam of the bow made of? And if it's made of steel, it's heavy to
Yeah.
be able to take that, and
Mhm.
the limiting factor on the historical crossbows is the power draw, how far back you can
Mhm.
actually pull the string, and that
Yeah.
limits the maximum speed. So that's
Yeah.
why crossbow bolts got heavy, because they could never
Mhm.
get but so fast, but you had enough power to push
Yep.
them. So that's
Mhm.
kind of the balance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you wanted to
Rick
stop.
Charles, that's what we're discussing. Actually, that's where the discussion kind of stopped. Was on Arthur Kana's specialists. That's where we are right now in
Yep.
the discussion, because Tim does the double dice damage for. Do you do it for crossbows too, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
But you only do die 6 though. You don't do the die 8s and die 10s, do you?
Oh, I did the die 10s with the Dark Hand had the 4 commando specialists, sniper specialists who came. They had each one carried 2 heavy crossbows on their horse. So when they got into their sniper position, they had one oriented one direction and one in their hand, so they could, switch quickly.
Yeah, and it's that double damage is just point blank, or is that short as well?
That's 60 feet point blank range.
Yeah.
Only point blank range
Only
for
point blank.
for the heavy
Which
crossbow.
most melee combat takes place there.
Right. They
So.
screwed up some bugbears like super fast.
Underwater crossbows have half distance for effectiveness. Crossbows are, at least you can use them underwater as opposed to bows. So yeah, we had some dagger specialists that got out of hand because we had to stop that with balance, because I'd have them throwing in both hands, and it was Bruce Lee time. It's like, so we stopped that.
Monks should be allowed to do that.
Maybe. Monks can do a lot of things, right? Just don't tell Skagith. And then throwing darts, yeah, people are doing them in both hands. It was getting too crazy. So
I don't think you should be able to, because how do you throw 3 darts without using both hands?
I agree, and we stopped
Right,
it.
this makes no sense.
We stopped it. Now let's compound it a little bit more with this. the Cavalier comes out. This is from Dragon 72. Right. The Cavalier comes out. But these aren't really, this is a mishmash of everything, right? I know you don't like this Cavalier, Tim, but I love this Cavalier. But they have Archer Crossbowman Specialist table here, right? Look at the arrow rate of fire.
It's overpowered.
I mean, it's crazy. At the same, it was all the way through
Tim.
third
Hey, Tom.
edition and Pathfinder 1. You had, you can shoot tons of arrows, and
The biggest factor of being a Cavalier
Oh,
was having
tons?
armor that was better than everybody else's. That's their
Yeah.
That's it. Because
And
it's like
they
what's
were
2 and
officially
1?
school trained. They usually had a lot
Yeah.
more training, so they tended to be better. But in reality, that's ridiculous.
So I'm
It's-
like,
oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Anna.
It ties into one of the problems you've had with D&D in almost every edition, is that when you start making cool stuff for players to do more and more, you build more crunch, and you get more overpowered because each class have to have new cool features, and you twist the rules and you bend them, and soon you have like a mess. Every edition
Agreed.
breaks up.
Agreed. Which is one of the reasons why I never left 1E, 2E. No, I'm dead serious, Anna. That's why I have this.
Jay, you can't hear you.
Power creep, yeah. Oh yeah, you muted yourself.
Can't hear you.
Oh, you unplugged yourself. Yeah. So
I said the
can't
F
hear
word
us.
twice.
You pulled the
good.
plug on
I
yourself.
pulled
Yeah.
the plug on my freaking self.
Yeah.
We're going to stay here and enjoy what we have and enhance that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to third edition with prestige classes and all that other stuff.
yeah,
And
but
that's-
that's one of the reasons one of the main reasons that I skipped classes, because I want to have a set of base features that anyone can learn, period, so to speak. So I don't have to invent new ways of tweaking the rules just to complicate things. So
No,
I was thinking-
understood.
I was thinking that, Anna, that too, because when you were describing the being better skilled with a crossbow, I know you've discussed having a skills based instead of having classes. It's skills based. That's perfect for that.
well, it's yeah.
like-
So you can simply say this is how good you can be with whatever it is, so to speak, and there's no going out of that, because the classes are at least when you get bloated, like that happened in not so much in first edition, because then they moved on to second, and second started it, and then third went crazy and things went wild. Fourth edition didn't happen that much. Now it's starting to happen with fifth edition, and we don't know what happened with 5.5 or whatever we'll call when it comes out. So to me, I want to stay away from that. I want to, these are the things you can do, period, and then don't evolve much out of it. So, but that's me. I'm a killjoy because I take away one of the most fun parts of the game, and I know it.
I like the flexibility. I like the flexibility though. The flexibility.
Mhm.
I like
Once
it.
I
again,
know. Yep.
a home game, perfect. I mean, I could see, customize away, do whatever,
Yep.
play the round. I'm always now thinking, for the last 6 years, I'm thinking, how does this relate to someone watching? All right.
Yep.
And that's what I got to take into consideration.
Mhm.
I think, Tim, you
But-
understand that now on your games when you play, because they're getting concise, right? When you run like the reverse dungeons, you're fitting into that 5-hour window now where it was tough before.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's just you get the feel for it. So
You get a feel for the scope that you can allow.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So real quick here, a couple things. Someone mentioned a repeating crossbow in UK4 when a star falls, which I'm going to rerun it back sometime because it's in the Pomars. Don't allow, with one exception. That would be a specialty priest of Merlin technological person.
Repeating crossbow in when a star falls.
UK4, there's a repeating crossbow. Yeah,
Where? But it's owned by the Deep Gnomes, isn't it?
I believe so. I believe so in there.
Well, you're not supposed to fight them.
Well, yeah, right. Well,
You're supposed to make a deal with them. That's a trade,
What if
and then
it's-
you get the thing.
right. Yeah. What if it's an evil party? It's Darrow to have it.
The Darrow have it.
Yeah. Flexibility is important. That's part of the beef I had with 5e. You are limited in your
I
skills.
don't remember that.
Lee, exactly. And I'm not pushing anyone off 5e in this discussion. I'm just saying, here's our evolution. Here's what Tim and I went through
Right.
44
I
years
can't-
ago. And
I
this
can't
is
talk about 5e.
yeah. So no, the Cavalier comes out, and this is the Dragon 72 version, and then the Art Arcana one comes out. And it sucks, and I've gone through this 100 times. Tim likes it. I hate it. There's another thing.
Dragon Magazine's overpowered.
Yeah, it is overpowered, but we tweaked it.
That's why Jay likes it, because he doesn't let players do it. He just has one.
What? That's not true. So, but the bow specialist out. This is ridiculous. That's because there's another Cavalier coming that has a good bow specialist, which we'll get to. So this is April '83, before Arcana comes out. All right, just wanted to share that with you guys. Let me get rid of that. And we're back to Arcana. What other challenges do we have in the early '80s, Anna and Tim? What else, spell wise or missile wise? What other challenges are there?
I think one of them is that there was, meaning first edition isn't balanced. I don't think the idea is that it shouldn't be balanced. Meaning, look at the fighter and the classes, they weapons versus spell users. In the beginning, all the ones that give the fighter and the thief and stuff, they are vastly more powerful than the wizard in the earliest, halfway up the
charmed one
level chain, and then it goes the opposite. That the spellcasters, like high level wizards and clerics, become way more powerful than the mere mortals, thieves and fighters at really high level.
That's what weapon specialization was set to address, though, Anna.
Yeah, but that's minuscule compared to the really powerful spells that wizards and others get at really high level, and I can like that. That's kind of cool,
no, I agree.
so to speak.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think if you want a balanced system, whether it's between crossbow, bows, and other things, then you simply say, how much damage should a character at level X be able to do per round on average? And then you can average it out and say the first level character should be able to do, let's say, 5 points per round on average, so to speak, meaning against the target that he is equally, meaning something that he will hit every 50% of the time against an equal target, so to speak, and then simply scale it up. And then you can dole it out. You can say, okay, I have a spell that does 50 points of damage, but then you have to have a hefty saving throw. You can only use it once a day, etc., etc. So you put a lot of caveats. The same thing with the bow and a crossbow. The crossbow can do 4 times more damage, but you can only use it once every 4 rounds.
Right.
And that way you can have so if you start thinking of game, that's one way you're thinking of game balance in pure mechanical terms. You simply set up the math and say, okay, this much on average, and then you start tweaking the rules. So over an encounter, you will get these averages, but they can be vastly different, meaning the wizard goes around for 9 runs doing nothing, and then boom, half the enemies go bunk. That's kind of fun if you're a wizard. So you have fewer spells that do a lot of boom in one go, so to speak. So that's something. But then you have also the different situations in the game, meaning you can have close-up if you're in a small room that is 20 by 20 feet and you're crammed. Then all of a sudden, the ranger that is specialized archer should be useless and vulnerable. The same might go for the wizard, and then the rogue and the fighter, they might be very powerful in this environment. So there you have another type of game balance, that not every character should be, and every type of skill should be usable in every environment, so to speak.
True.
The wizard's super powerful for about 3 hours.
Yeah.
And he's not as useful. The fighter can screw you up day in, day out, all day long.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we know that Ed was worried about this because he always says, well, I always say, Ed is an example, Agonizer Scorcher. I'm like, Ed, this is not a 2nd level spell. It's a freaking nasty spell. I made it 4th. And he goes, well, back then, wizards weren't getting any advantages, so I pumped up all the low-level spells. I'm like, oh, my God. And so he admits to it. He admits it. But, and that's a good point, is that
2nd level is really weak.
2nd level spells are worst. Absolutely. So,
well, they're weak. You have a lot of miscellaneous, clever, interesting ones.
Yeah, mirror image. Yeah, some good sticky cloud. There were some really good spells at 2nd, but as far as damage goes, yes. But I know what I was trying to get at. So with the ranged weapons, we now have, at this point, this is 1985. We have archers, fighters specialized with bows, and cavaliers specialized with bows because we haven't taken it away yet. Do you remember our first, Tim? Our first ever. What do you call it? The 10-year celebration for the Order of Ulick. We had the grand festival. And do you remember who won the archery contest? It wasn't an archer. It was a Britta Mart, the Cavalier, won it, which showed you how
also.
Yeah, which showed you how imbalanced that the Cavalier bowman was. I was like, that's it. We got to get rid of that. So Sleep Web. There's some good spells. Sleep first, Curtis. Sam Curtis. Sleep is a first level spell.
We also have an overinflation of that stuff because we say what character we want to play, and then we make sure stats match it. Where if you actually just rolled, they would be so far much more rare as a player.
True. But with 70, when Alan has 70 PCs,
sure.
I let them do that now.
I'm just saying that it's a success bias.
Yeah, players who go for utility classes don't like a lot of that. That's true, Lee. We're talking about game. We're talking about what happens in the game when things go awry. Because trust me, I'm trying to tell you the evolution of what happened with us. Now, critical hits are right in this era. We start messing with the critical hits, but we don't have missile critical hits yet. We just
don't?
No, we just have one critical hit table. No. We just had the one critical hit table that was in Dragon. That's it.
Oh, now you need to invent.
I think we did. I think
not right off. Not right off. No. I
think we use piercing. I think we use piercing weapons.
It's possible, but I'm almost positive we didn't have a blunt table. We had one critical hit table that was in the Dragon magazine.
I've got arrow crits now.
I know you do, and they're really disgusting. Yeah, you can blame. So John should blame you for most of the characters that died in his campaign, right? I'm going to shout out Blue Box just for that. Hopefully Kurt's on or whatever, but yeah. Most of the
when one creates a tool, you can't blame the creator of the tool for how it's used. It's the workman that must use the tool.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Well, they kept dying, and I still can't figure out how come they didn't just start using missile weapons. Because every time you attack, there's that chance, just like reality, like military suppressive fire. You put more rounds in an area, there's a chance you shoot somebody in the face. So
yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that with your party? Everyone should have missile weapons.
Everyone should.
It's dumb if you don't.
So this is from 1985 to now. I don't know. What do you think, Tim? 15 to 20 different evolutions of the table.
Yeah,
for us.
Multiple,
yeah, for us. This is about it. Now I take these are the cons. I use these on streams. I use these in my games. I given a lot of you these. So hey, Pearl, good to see you. So this changes things up a little bit more too, right? At this point in the game, we start using critical hits around 1985. That's during our Dracana era, which changed the game. Now, Anna, what do you do when with a crit? Is it just double damage?
I've been simple since we played third edition so much. Bows were kind of interesting because they did 3 times on crits. So they were
thing, right?
Yeah,
that's 3.
Yeah, third edition and Pathfinder 1, and we played that for like 20 years. So that's been my main part of my gaming. Half of my game, not game, roughly 40 years. So half of that time have been third edition in one way or the other, and so that made the number of attacks and the fact that they did 3 times crits made them damn overpowered, and so especially since you had a lot of classes that added even more attacks and more features onto them, just like fighters. So they became killing machines, and I had an arcane archer in Pathfinder organized play, and she could fire 6-7 arrows a round, and she also had keen and some magic and stuff, so she critted on like 70 to 20. So she often critted every other round there.
It was like Crow and Hawk the Slayer.
Yeah,
exactly. So she often did damage couple of 100 points around, and they was ridiculously overpowered. So the number of attacks was ridiculous, and the crit was way more. So they needed
the bad
to
guys let her live.
Yeah, but the
Punk rock.
interesting thing is that bad guys didn't get that many. So what I did in my campaigns, I simply have bad guys who were fighting using exactly the same rules as the PCs, and they didn't like that much bit. But they started shooting
Punk
6
rock.
arrows and could crit.
Have a thief sneak up and cut the bowstring.
Yeah.
Forget backstabbing.
Yep. So there was So there were it's interesting. So I think that you need to rein in the basis premises of it and make it, or keep some of the benefits, but make it really hard to learn. So that's the other thing. So you basically make bow combat almost impossible until you're third or fourth level. That's a bonus you get when you really study things. Or you can use a simple the crossbow for that takes a long time to learn, because that's, or you have to spend a lot of energy or a lot of your XP to learn to use a bow.
Keith, you're dead on. So Keith hit thing. Limit arrows. I have done that.
Yeah.
I've done that. Yeah, see? Dead on.
Yeah.
So I can't believe we didn't discuss it, Keith. That's a home run there.
Oh yeah, it's
One
a good
quiver.
and, yeah.
For and Coco, I could tell you about that yesterday. Running out of arrows. One quiver. Archers I allow to carry 2, and that's it.
So
Oh yeah.
you can also, well, I think too, it depends. For streamlining, Jay doesn't, you can switch weapons each round. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't at the time. But I don't let you can't throw a longbow in your back. Unless you have a bag of holding or a special magical device. It's a 6-foot long staff. You're not going to put it on your back.
Right.
Even composite bows, they're not long and thin like a plain short bow. They're wide. So if they're strong, you can't just tuck it in your pocket, so you must carry it. So now and then where are you putting it when you fight? You got to drop it and do so. So it makes them less super sexy if you can just pop it out, shoot rounds. Bing, my spear's out. We're just, so
yeah.
I use that rule. And then also with the underdogs, they started with 6 arrows.
Yeah, well, that's understandable because because they just didn't have resources. I mean, I think that's great. What's up, Dale?
Yeah.
I think that's a great way of doing it.
Ammunition is
ammunition.
Sure way. Yep.
And your D&D characters could be like, hey, I want to buy arrows. Hey, I'm sorry, the lord of the castle, he's buying them all up, and he's put out a little, little command. We're not allowed to sell until he gets his. And then now you can restrict them, and now they're like,
you have to go and make them, and that takes like a day to make an arrow, and you need to have the feathers and
that was another thing. Genius of Len, the archer class there were rules for making arrows and even making bows that you use at a
same thing in third edition had crafting and third edition era games had crafting built in.
Yeah. So it's a
you gotta streamline that to not let it get abused, because we try to abuse it, Jay. So
I know. So what is happening at this point? Certain classes are getting ignored, and I'm going to tell you the one that's getting ignored at this point, and that's the ranger. And I didn't want that to happen, but it was happening, right? And it was kind of a position we didn't want to go to. So I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Because I don't want the ranger to go away because all these bow dealer, damaging dealer classes are taking its ability away. So I came up with some ranger class updates where I gave them 2 specialization slots where they got a plus to hit and damage, but they didn't get multiple attacks on it, and they could do 1 missile and one regular bow, and that solved that problem right off the bat. But it's straight class only. Remember, multi-class characters I don't allow specializing at all. So and that's how we handled that. Real simple. Made some changes. We merged the 2nd, 3rd edition Ranger where they wear studded leather and it could be dual wielding as an option and all those other things. And that hey Stronghold, good to see you, man. We're gonna have next week so many guests on. We'll talk about it at the end, but we're gonna have every single stream with the exception of one. Chuck has confirmed for the event for the Prelude show for the fundraiser next week. Every single one, Anna. Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome.
That's going to be great. Where the hell's your shout out? There it is.
And when we speak of that, then we have another. I think ammunition is an awesome thing, and also when you have classes like that, to limit. To only allow certain things to so not everyone can learn everything. That's another good one. But also one that I think is also underutilized are environments. Meaning if you're out in the forest, for instance, it's damn hard to hit something that you have a lot of bushes and trees and stuff. It's actually easy to hide from missile and ranged combat and spells and stuff if you're out in the forest, if you have like underbrush and stuff like that. So you should often, if you can see someone shooting missile at you, or ranged weapon at you, you should have the chance to duck and dive for cover and stuff. But that's only versus one attack, so to speak. So if there's multiple enemies shooting at you, then you're kind of screwed in that sense. But it's
They got so BB number one. They have to specialize.
Mhm.
Okay, they have to specialize. Well, that's a slot, and they don't start without that many weapons. Two, they get a +2 to +2 damage at point blank. Their range is increased by 30. +1/+1 at short. That's it. So it adds a little bit more to them, make them a little bit better than an elf wielding a bow. That's all. That's it, man. Go
Hey,
ahead,
I
Tim.
got to pop out for just a couple minutes.
Yeah, I know you got to do your
Yep.
pickup thing. Tim will be right
Yep.
back as he has
I'll
to
be
go
back.
do a sun pickup. So look at that. We're through a whole hour already. All right. While Tim's not here, Anna, let's go to another option. I think I have it here. So I know we're not talking about spells as much, and I want to talk about spells, and I don't want to bash 5e because everyone knows how much I hate spell sculpting. I hate it with a passion.
But that's a 3rd edition more than anything.
Was it 3rd?
Yeah, it's 3rd edition that has all these feats, that meta magic feat that lets you shape magic in any every conceivable way, so to speak, and so on. That was a 3rd edition, especially 5e have some of it, but 3rd edition was the had the plethora of that, meaning there were hundreds of feats you could have if you had a lot of splat books full of stuff that you could tweak all sorts of stuff. So that's definitely a 3rd era, and including with the 3rd era, I include Pathfinder 1 because that's basically a 3rd edition.
Right.
Game, so,
it's a 3.5 plus.
Yeah.
Right?
So 3rd edition, 3.5, and Pathfinder 1. I put them together as one edition, so to speak, with minor tweaks through its life, so to speak. But there you had. But there was a lot of cool stuff. It was kind of, I would say that was mechanics going galore, so to speak. You had mechanics everywhere. And 4th edition is interesting. When we talk about game balance, 4th edition took game balance to new heights, because then you simply quantified all the different powers, and they were called powers, I think, in 4th edition. So a fighter, a 4th edition 5th level characters could do this much damage on its powers. It's like powers that he can use every round. It powers he can use daily, and it powers it can use once per encounter. Those were the 3 main types of powers. And a fighter, you called them a whatever whirlwind attack or whatever it was, and a wizard had the same power, but it was flavored as a spell. So that meant that all the classes were very well balanced and all the stuff worked really well in that sense. But it was kind of boring because the classes were cookie cutters. They were a lot of similarity between a wizard and mechanically between a wizard and a fighter.
Boring as hell.
It's boring, but it's mechanically well balanced. So if you're out for balance, you should definitely look for at 4th edition and look at it. And so that was one of the benefits with 4th edition. The other benefit was that every character always had something fun to do every round in combat. There was always something cool you could do. There was always a spell, meaning spellcasters didn't run out of cool. Every character had something interesting to do in every round, in every combat at every turn. And those were, I think, were the 2 benefits of 4th edition. But cookie cutter similarities kind of dull in that sense, because there was no oddities were kind of taken out of the game. That was the downside, and some other stuff.
Which
but there was some
quirks
upsides
are good.
too. Yeah,
Quirks and running out of spells is a good thing in the game, because I tell you, my players that play, the special players who have mages, they know they're always like, I know this is last encounter. I gotta save my spells, and that's what I like to hear and see. So
I'll find some 4th edition books here they're hard to reach here. So the 4th edition came out in 2008, I think it was. It was when they realized that 3rd edition had the open gaming license, and Wizard of the Coast wanted to kill that off and introduce another license. So then they made 4th edition, and it was it was the most odd edition of all the D&D editions.
They wanted to turn it into World of Warcraft.
Kind of thing, yeah, because these massive multiplayer online role-playing games were the new cool thing. So they wanted that at the game table. So mechanically, it was the most streamlined, the most well-balanced, and mechanically
And the most
interesting. Yeah, and it was also exactly, therefore it was the most hated. I think it's a good game. The problem is that it's not particularly a D&D game.
No,
That's
it's not.
the
It's
problem.
not.
It was a great game, but not a good D&D game because it
Board version
was,
of World of Warcraft.
yeah, exactly. It was so different from all the other editions of D&D. So I think it's a great game on its own merits. But as a D&D edition, no, I don't think it's great.
So this is one of the raciest covers of all time. If you notice, you see this, and they got almost got
Yeah.
in trouble with this. This is Dragon 114, which has
Yeah.
a Great Witch class in it that Tim and I use, and also a couple other things. But it also has the Chris Booth. I don't know who Chris Booth is. If anyone knows him, I'd love to have him on. This is the Elven Cavalier. I have this as a class in my game. This is awesome. The Elven Cavalier. He took this and thought, the elves, and this, I think this is very Greyhawk. How am I going to turn that Unearthed Arcana Cavalier to a bow-wielding Elven Cavalier? And he does it very successfully. I won't go over a lot of the details, but they wear Elven chainmail instead. They got bonuses with longsword and a secondary hand weapon, and they use short bow because it's short range. They combat for them with the bow in the trees and all. It's a really great class. It can be very powerful at higher levels, but we utilize this class with some minor changes. As always, you tweak. So where are the dwarven subclasses besides Giant Killer? Janitor, we have one. We have the Shield Thane. We have its own unique class, and it's a discussion for a fighter discussion one time. We have a dwarf class.
Yeah, and Scottish Jeff, that's a lot of interesting points. And fourth edition, I think it deserves better cred than it gets, because fourth edition got some stuff right, and there's some cool stuff. They overhauled the cosmology of D&D. The Feywild and the Shadow Dark and stuff are fourth edition stuff. They came out with some cool stuff for fourth edition, but it's an overlooked edition, and it was kind of the odd one out, so to speak. And it was so there are some cool stuff for 4E, but it's definitely not my favorite edition. And in that sense, I don't think I have a favorite edition. Almost every edition, I've loved every edition the best when it came out, and it was a new cool thing, and I loved it. Meaning, I loved second edition better than first. I loved third edition better than first and second when it came out. Pathfinder better than all of them. Now I kind of like fifth edition, and their Tales of the Variant. Now there's so many ones, I don't know which one. So I'm making my own version, so to speak. So that do it, but they all have merits in their own right, so to speak, and they try to solve different issues and come up with other problems.
So we'll wait for Tim. Elven Cavalier is 114.
Yeah.
Dragon 114. Yeah, it's on.
But it's the Elven Cavalier is an interesting dichotomy in a way, because Cavaliers is supposed to fight head on honorably with someone toe to toe in melee, and then you use So
this is specific to Elven Kingdoms.
Exactly.
That's why it fits perfect with Selene. I think, and perfect with the Duchy of Ulick.
Yeah.
And that's why I really think he hit the nail on the head. There's no Greyhawk talk in it, but I think it was really, really well done. And so if you go with this, and Casey Brown actually helped me put this together.
And I use exertion points. That's a way of you that's an energy you spend, and we have. It's taken from Advanced 5e from Level Up from EM Publishing. So I'm using that in my rules. So so you can do cool stuff, and then your energy runs out. But you can use spellcasters, use them for its things, and fighters for some other things and stuff. So
just a compilation of all my classes, which and you have.
So is that different race? Which race is allowed, and other limitations?
Yeah, absolutely. And the limitations are all built in here. It's 1E2E style. But there's races. There's classes for every race. I know race is not a term a lot of people like, but I'm going to stick with it because I'm just old and I can't learn new tricks. Although I can, and I'll explain that in a second. So I'll show you something we did new. So these are all the classes. Now look, you have a specialty priest. There's 43 different specialty specialty priests on here. So you know, you
But
have
that
priests.
specialty priest is the class that I think makes more sense than almost every other
It's
class.
awesome.
And yeah, because the different gods and powers, so to speak, they give you certain things, and they put certain restrictions on you. So that to me makes sense.
It's brilliantly Greyhawk too.
Yeah.
Fits the priest for Greyhawk.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't have a clear classes, but
Yeah.
if you become an agent of a deity and to receive power from a deity, that gives you certain things and it gives you certain restrictions. So in that sense, that is kind of a class, but
Jeff.
anyone can learn more or less of it.
Cool, Michael. That's awesome to hear that you finished
But
those.
now we get
we got off
I'm
on a
getting off
tangent.
topic.
So no, we got
Exactly,
all
yeah.
these, including Bandit. The Bandit class is another one. I think
Mhm.
that's in Dragon 63. So bandits
Do
are
you-
like, Little Bones has a character Devin, who's a great bandit.
Yeah.
They get the same 2 specializations that a ranger gets, but they're just, you know, they're
Mhm.
more of a. They're woodsmen, but they're not like the Aragorn prototypical ranger. Maybe they, you know, came from a different background, or you know, they weren't trained. But I love the bandit class we have too. So we have a lot. We have ranger thief, good multi-class class, good multi-class. So and multi-classing is allowed too, but you don't get your weapon specialization. So we have all these ranged bow dealers, okay, and we have all these ranged spells. And there's still issues at this point. Let me get off of this and go to our main thing. Tim will be back any minute. What? Bandit, isn't that my boy? Fritz? No, Fritz is a thug. Fritz is a thief, thug subclass, which was his kit, which we created our own class for it. He's a thug. He's not a bandit. If he was a bandit, he'd have some skills. Yeah, he's a thug. That's funny though that you remember that. Still having these issues. People are shooting melee combat like crazy still. Hey, it's allowed. So about 15 years ago, I say, and you brought it up, combat's not static, even though the miniatures are.
Mhm.
Here we are. They're doing the dance of the fight. And here's the archer shooting into combat. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just implement this and try it. And
Yeah.
it works. And if you miss shooting in a melee combat, you have to re-roll to hit your one of your allies' rear armor classes. If there's 2 or 3 of them, you randomize which one it is, and it works really well. And I think the rate of shot that actually hits when you miss is about 1 in 4. It seems to happen on a missed shot in the melee combat, so it's not that bad. But once again, like for example, Coco's character, her first ever action as a fighter mage, she shoots long range across a dock to hit someone, and misses and hits the dock worker who's being attacked, which was hysterical, right? And she'll never live that down now, which is just funny little side story. And Anna's character Emery always shoots in the melee combat. So does your archer.
Yeah.
Always
you
shoot.
learn me into it so many times that it's kind of funny.
Doesn't
now. So
matter.
I do it at least once in adventure. So yeah.
Yes.
But
yes.
now I need to ask you a question. Since you have all these classes, are there any classes that are so limited that they basically don't have any ranged options?
Yes.
Or okay.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Duelists.
Mhm.
Duelists are
Yeah.
all about the the fighting style melee.
Mhm.
That's the
It
number
will be
one.
beneath them to
Absolutely.
engage in
No, they're
ranged
not. They're
combat.
not doing
Yeah.
it. In fact,
Mhm.
Little Bird has Orin Thera, her duelist who just played Saturday morning. She's never. They don't. It's not part of the class. And that the duelist is also from a Dragon magazine. So if we Dragon 73, everyone, right after the Cavalier, as I got the chart up still. Minor changes to that class I made, but yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
Duelist is a, and they're one of 2 classes that get die 12 for a hit die.
Mhm. So another question: when a character learns proficiencies,
Mm-hmm.
do you group them, or is it like they used to be like fighter types? They learn all the weapons basically, or how would that work?
That's a good question, Anna.
Yeah,
and the answer,
because I grouped my weapons. So bows is one group, for instance. You can either learn individual weapon that costs what is it, like a 25 XP, and then you can learn a group of weapon that's 100 XP. So you can have like bows is one group, crossbows is another one, pole arms is one, for instance, and short blades is one, swords is another one, thrown weapons, axes and picks is another one. So you can learn them per group, so to speak. You have to pay 100 XP.
We like ours
yeah.
to be a unique feel, so I go per weapon still.
Mhm.
Now we've added them. It's a great question, and we've also added this.
Yeah.
This is where we merge feats into the proficiency system. And so with all these
Yep.
special things, I want to go over one I just added recently, everyone. So like I said, you can teach an old dog new tricks. And here's your proficiencies. And instead of a fighter getting one every 3, they get one every 2 levels now. So you start with 4. So you could go longsword, longbow. You could specialize with your longsword at first. And then do another one ability. If you want to do defensive training or toughness or whatever, you take that and you go. So here's the number one question. Well, why would I take a Sayax or a broadsword when every magic item in the game is a longsword? Well, if you took the broadsword of Sayax, you think I'm going to reward you with finding a nicer weapon? The answer is yes, because that's the way I DM. I want variety of weaponry. Does that make sense, everyone? I don't want everyone using the. This is why another reason why Anna that the special. I don't want to go back into the specialty priest of Heronius. This drives me nuts. I want people using bardishes. I want people using glaives. I want people using two-handed hammers. I want that just to change the game up.
Yeah, that's why I simplified it and made single
scimitars.
weapon proficiencies 25 XP. Meaning, if you're a wizard and you want to learn a sword, it's not that difficult. You can learn a sword, and all characters know the basic weapons.
We have that too.
Yeah, and then you have the groups, but then so it's not too difficult to learn the basics of weapons, meaning to be proficient in weapons. That's not terribly difficult. But because you can do them in groups, you can learn all the bows and all the swords or something like that. So it will take you, if as a fighter, you will learn nothing except learning all the weapons. They will take you 3 levels, so to speak. And then you basically, if you learn nothing else over 3 levels or 4 levels, then you can learn to at least fight effectively. And I'm going to have like a special one. You can pay 300 or 500 XP and you can learn basically, I'm so smart, so used to weapons, I can figure out at least basically how to fight with anything. And then, but mastery, specialization and mastery, you do that per weapon type, so to speak. So longbow or short bow or whatever it is. Yeah.
I don't know if Tim even knows this.
Yeah.
Here's you can't teach. I think I discussed this for about 10 seconds one night. This book, I got this book a little while ago, the Player's Combat and Tactics thing. And they had a thing called Weapon Mastery, which I remember from Baldur's Gate 2 back in the day. And I think, how am I going to incorporate this into the game? I'm sorry, this is going off on a tangent a little bit from the missile. So if we go to this is how we came up with it. But we want to limit it. Once again, I want it to be rare.
Of course, Jay wants to limit it.
Of course I do, because I am a smart DM. I don't want to have Poo-Poo and Kaka running around with weapon mastery. You understand what I'm saying?
Why not? They deserve it.
Yeah.
Exactly. They've been in the game so long, they deserve it. Please,
They're
we should have a
legends.
campaign, level up.
So here's how
Need a boost.
Here's how it goes. Weapon Grand Mastery, number 39. Three asterisks. You have to be double specialized first. So what does that mean, Tim?
You're
Who's
over
that
7th
eliminate?
level. You're over. Oh, so you have to be a single class fighter.
Yes, this says knights, cavaliers can get double.
Ooh,
Now wait,
Knights are-
wait. Base fighter class only. Done. Right? Dual classing removes ability. So I'm not having any, I'm a 5th level fighter and I go over to a mage and I'm a weapon master.
No.
You're a weapon master. You're staying as a fighter. You change your so what is it?
That has to be your professional. You're a professional.
Absolutely. What does it do? Well, and plus you must seek out a specialized training in a campaign. You must find the weapon master who's going to train you.
Right.
In the course of gameplay.
Like Conan.
Exactly. It gives
War
you.
Masters of the East.
I think this is cool, everyone. This gives you base weapon dice damage raised 1 category. So now your longsword is die 10. Against large, it's 2 to 16. Goes from die 12 to 16. Now you can't do it with polearms because you can't double specialize with them.
Well,
it's only what?
You should be able to.
All right. So what are you going? What's your base damage dice going to be for 2-handed sword?
2 die 20.
That's saddle sword. Yes. Thanks,
Which
Baker.
doesn't really exist.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we did. So the biggest one that you're going to be able to do that with is Bastard Sword, and they'll be 3 to 18 with it. Hey, Patrick, thanks, man. And I got your package, too. Thank you very much. It's downstairs. We'll show it all on Thursday. So there you go. I added something.
I really wasn't thinking about the two-handed sword because the write-up in the game is a little bit weird with the two-handed sword. But I was thinking of pole arms. There's certain wieldable pole arms that seem like they would be reasonable. But yeah, the two-handed sword is off the charts, unreasonable.
So there you go. I added something, and I'm not old, and well, I am old, but I'm not an ass. We added something.
No, but you changed things, and you still stuck with, or stuck. That was the wrong way. You mean that was meant in an endearing way, meaning
Well, thank you.
stuck to the premise of first edition, and you kept the feel of the first edition, and so on. You evolved it, but within the framework. You haven't made it into something else. It still feels and plays like first edition. And
I like that, Jay. I like that rule. It's
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that rule.
And there are none in the game right now. Not a single one in my game. It's something to strive for. This also takes the straight class fighter, and now they have a goal to go after. I did add taunt. I did the taunt capability. I did add battle and demoralizing shout. But now they can become the weapon master of their choice. But they got to be real careful. They can dual wielding and all that messes it all up a lot of times because you have only so many proficiency slots, right? So there you go.
And KG Art Kfir, you had a good point saying spear is one of the most versatile, best weapons, and it's interesting. I've seen in back in Europe they had these kind of where knights, people in shiny armor with swords and all sorts of weapons they made tournaments, and they didn't only have tournaments with lances and stuff. They also had pit fights where they actually went in and bashed each other like crazy against armor. And people with spears, they won almost every damn time.
Tim loves spears.
Spear seems to be. Yeah. I'm not an expert in that. I've just seen hours of kind of mock or made up of medieval combat, so to speak. And when you see it like that, spear seems to be the best weapon. It's fast, cheap, easy to use, and lethal, and it's also much most versatile. You have long reach with it, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff, and you can throw it, so you have a ranged effect as well.
It's one of the reasons why I think the quarterstaff is poorly represented in D&D, because it's
quarterstaff is like a spear without a
the metal tip, but it's still an inch and quarter of hickory that's 8 feet long is going to do you right.
Tim, you just like the dude from Good Times that was in Beastmaster with his spear.
Or the Robin Hood movie.
No.
What was his name?
I forget his name. I know you're talking about, but he was using one. Let's be clear. He was using a short
Patrick,
staff,
thanks.
but two, he was using it at half staff. He was not fighting with a quarter staff.
Someone hits with 100.
You're holding it at the last quarter of the staff.
Yeah.
And I have if you're master of the spear, you can get reach. So you can reach 10 feet instead of 5 feet with it. So a master of a spear can hold on to the end and still be easily effective and do attacks at 10 feet away.
I love Spear Appreciation Day when I'm doing armor.
Yep.
I'm doing our sword training.
Didn't you armor final certified in Spear?
No, longsword.
What was it, longsword? I thought you did spear training.
I mean, too. I sparred with it. I was pretty good with it. But
yeah. And another aspect of it that I think it was also very popular in ancient armies and medieval, it was cheap to make. A sword and an axe and stuff required way more material, way more labor. A spear was much easier to produce, much cheaper, and that way
they still put it on rifles today, which the bayonet is just a vestigial spear.
Yep. So it's even to this day, it's the last of medieval weapons that are kind of in some ways still used on the battlefield. So dagger and spear. Yeah.
So Tim, with all the combat things going on, I know we haven't talked about spells that much, and we get off some time. Where right today, as we go through all, we're still 1A2E after all these years. We've incorporated all these different things. You and I have our different nuances in the game. Where do you? And your crits are way nastier than the crits on the table that Alan does for us. Where, what do you think is like? Where can we improve, or where have we gone too far? Or do you think our balance has gotten to the right point there? Like, do you do shooting into melee combat, for an example, a reroll or not?
I use I do kind of what you do, although I'll modify it depending on range and stuff like that. If on the fly, I'll kind of do a thing on the fly. If I think that the guy's shooting from too far away, I'll be like, there's a penalty, there's a bonus to hit the wrong person if they miss their shot. But I think all the things we do are just, they're parts of the flavor of the way we do it, and they're not
Right.
I don't see a big giant gap other than that darn bad Cavalier that you like. But besides that,
But that's what I have.
I know.
By the way, when Tim DMs his 6 a.m. game, I'll be playing Dervillia.
That's right.
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be fantastic.
You're going to regret having that theme for your fundraiser.
That's okay, because I'm used to freaking demons teleporting me out in the middle of the sky and dropping me down. So I'm used to it. I'm already used to it. And if I fall and just sit there and run the stream, it's okay. But all right. So I think we've in all these 40 years, I think we've gotten to a good point. But we're always looking to change things. Some things. I mean, I've changed.
Yeah, I want to add that Grandmaster. I think that's a great addition.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. See, once in a blue moon I can. Thanks, Lee. Once in a blue moon I can get there.
I added a few things on that fit.
You've added a ton of spellcasting classes. So why don't you talk a little bit about that because we're talking about range combat, all the different subclasses in particular you've done. Like you've done shamans and stuff, you know.
Right. Well, with the barbarian theme thing, I had to look for some other. So there's the totemic shaman. I added. Different flavors of witch. There's several different witch classes that are sitting out there that I've used. I've renamed them, and they have different. One of them is more about talking to spirits and, medicines, and the other one's more like this. But they're all kind of, in that milieu. They're all kind of, you can't really tell them apart because they're all just kind of like, the witch doctor type. The medicine type.
Okay.
Those are the ones that stand out the most. I mean, just the
what for both of you, Anna, what is a current annoyance with spells? I'm gonna tell you what mine is that I don't use because of the way we play style. It's the one thing that gets lost in miniatures play. Spell interruption is really tough for the way the style I play. I know a lot of people live by it, so it's not my thing. So I know a lot of people go, well, you don't use spell interruption, so as much. But it's just because we have two separate phases. We have the good guys, the bad guys, whoever wins group initiative. Hard to do spell interruption with that. There is a way with the delay. If you delay and say, I'm anticipating, I'm going to try and dispel the incoming, I allow that. That's about it. So go ahead, Tim.
With the nature of magic change that I have, where it's more ritual, so there is a way as a spellcaster to cast every spell. If you have the components there, it just takes you about 2 rounds to do it. And there's lots of possibilities of, oops, I had an oopsie, which makes spell fumbles look pleasant.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, but you can do it, but because it takes you 2 rounds, then the chance of getting interrupted is greater and chance of getting something bad happen to you. That's the kind of
What can happen during your spell criticals or spell failures, fumbles? What can happen?
What can happen?
Yeah. Like max damage. Like what happens in a spell critical if you roll? Because Tim makes you roll to hit or roll a 20-sided die during spell casting. Which I don't do. He's got the chart.
So, spell fumbles. Magical stress. After successfully casting the spell, the caster is overcome with fatigue. For the next 1 to 10 rounds, he must make a Constitution and Wisdom roll to cast the spell.
That's cool.
So you kind of overexerted it. So now, to get your stuff together to do something, you have to make those 2 saves.
That's awesome. That's an example.
Here's magical overpressure. Caster suffers from excruciating headache and nosebleed for 1 round, causing him to lose 1 to 6 hit points.
Oh, neat.
which could be bad if you're first level.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, you thought these out. How many different spell fumbles and spell crits? You have 20 of each?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, thank you, both Joe Being and Patrick. I'm just curious because I know it's in
26 outcomes on the fail.
Right. How do you run? Oh, it's all percentile dice. I got it.
Percentile dice.
Yeah.
And I like my my crits. I think are funniest.
Funny? How's a crit?
Well, if you spell crit, if you roll, you're casting crit. You're not necessarily like if you roll a 100 on your, you roll hair trigger badassery. You flick out the spell so fast it was a free action. Cast something else if you want.
Wow.
Boom. If you roll 96 to 99, it's like you seem like you invented magic. You can cast as if 4 levels higher. And you don't lose your prepared spell. Any saves are at -4. Boom! But you got to roll 96 to 99.
But that's also the bad guys too.
Yes.
Poor man.
Well done.
Yeah.
Or well done. -1 saving throw for the target, or it goes off as 1 level higher, depending on whether it was combative against them, or they have a save, or you're maybe doing a healing spell or something.
So, Peril, we have remedied that issue in our game with mages having low hit points. We've remedied them not having enough spell slots. We've taken care of those things. They get the ability extra spell slot, which is one of my feats, for free at 3rd, and that gives them a bonus spell slot that goes up with them, and they can put it in any level they want under their top level. So a 7th level caster can add either a 1st or a 2nd or a 3rd to his repertoire. Plus, I give items with spell slots on them. Right, we have a feat called Toughness, +1 hit point per level. We do all these things to make mages and stuff survivable. So we try because we want balance.
Plus, they should be smart.
Plus, they should be smart, but we want balance. We don't want them, just having like, oh, I got, and max hit points at first too. So that's another thing we do as well.
Yeah.
So we've really worked that out. Thank you, Patrick, there for getting us hype bumped. Anna, what are your thoughts on your game style and what you would like to change?
Well, one of the couple of problems I see with spells generically in D&D. One is the boring fact that a lot of times spellcasters use the spell and the target saves and you're screwed and nothing happens, so to speak. So there's a lot of disappointment in that. Meaning if you cast your fireball and then they save and it fizzles out. So a lot of times the magic is kind of it's when you only have a few spells with a lot of bang, so to speak. That's one of the problems with it. The other one is that it feels not magical. It feels kind of mechanistic and boring often, and becomes for instance, how about magical duels and stuff? Should you be able to counter spelling and duel? What if there's another spellcaster? What if you can engage that spellcaster and start doing? Those are the things that I want to address in some capacity. I know it's really hard because to tweak these, and there's no easy solution.
So Anna, I'm going to tell you right now, that was my thought.
Yeah. On
the Elementalist.
Mm-hmm.
That's the damage dealing combat mage. And a fire elementalist is going to be scared shitless from a water elementalist, and vice versa. And that's kind of where when I saw that in 2nd edition written up, I'm like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. But there weren't enough spells, and that's when and that's
and in later editions,
alpha.
And in later editions of the mini spells, I think should work in 2 ways. They should either be directly you target something, and then you make it to hit roll, and you hit or you miss, so to speak, against the armor class, or they are treated as area effect, and they give it. Then the target has a save, so they can reduce the effect or sneak out of it somehow. So spells should fall into, if they affect someone, that should fall into either, or they should be. And they attack them mentally and they get a will save or something like that. But you physically target them to hurt them in hit points. And they're either direct spells, meaning it's to hit, then they can crit and fail, or they are an area effect, and that means that's save. So I want to have more direct hit spells,
Okay.
meaning Melf's acid arrows and stuff like that should not give say they should have it to hit. And if you roll high enough, meaning if you're high level wizard, then you normally hit way more often, and then you roll damage, and then you
Right.
can
Interesting
crit.
concept.
Should be a
Yeah.
lightning spell like the Emperor when he's zapping Darth Vader. You know, it's like
Yeah, like a
single
lightning
target.
bolt should have to hit rather than a saving throw.
Well,
That will be more fun.
I have incorporated into my game as a regular spell that used to be just Elementalist, and this is where
Yeah.
changes come. The spell Lightning Blast, which is single target, does
Mhm.
die 8 plus 1 die 6, save for half for every other level.
Yeah.
So, and you see a lot of shamans with that because I think it's,
Mhm.
you know, it has that
Yep.
shaman feel to it. But originally it was just quasi elementalist. I'm
Yeah.
thinking to myself, why don't I put this in so that the shaman types, you know, the humanoids can get that? And I've kind of
Yeah.
done that. Oh, Wayne, thanks, Wayne. And it's really worked because everyone likes that spell.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example of stuff that that drove me crazy, and Tim's going to understand this. The haste race. I hated the haste racing that we had in the 80s. Because immediately what would happen? Whoever won in it, mage would cast haste on his own people, and another mage would cast slow on the bad guys. And I'm like, I'm tired of this. So I eliminated them from area effect spells to single target spells. And that solved that problem immediately. You know, you can haste one, you know, and so just some things and tactics.
I would make them area haste and like time stop and stuff. They affect an area. That area might follow an individual, but that means that anyone who steps into it are affected by it too. So and it also ages you.
Yeah,
It's really bad,
too.
so to speak. Yeah, so it really ages you, and it's also can have other nasty effects because all of a sudden you're in a kind of a little bit of a pocket dimension yourself when you start messing with time. That opens up a lot of other nasty possibilities. So
it dominated tactical thinking too much.
Yeah,
all the time. And we used to do double hasting back in the day too, and that was it. And I was like, no.
But this followed the general rule. If everybody starts using the same tactics over and over again, that means that it's overpowered. The same thing is if it's an option, a class or a weapon or a spell never used, that means that it's underpowered. So that's something you can do in your home games. If something is used way too often, you have two options. Either you boost something else in order to level the playing field, or you more likely reduce that in effect. You make it a little bit less effective. The same thing if no one's ever using crossbows, make crossbows a little bit cool. Give them more damage until they become a little bit popular. If every other character is carrying a crossbow because they're so good, then they're probably a little bit too good. So you need to lower them a bit. So that's a general rule for game balancing. Simply start looking. If something becomes so common that if everybody wants to take toughness, then the toughness feed is probably a little bit giving you a bit too much. If only the fighter types take toughness and the wizards realize that it costs too much, then you're probably somewhere right, so to speak, with the toughness rule. And that's kind of a general rule, is that if every fourth character does it, then you're probably right, so to speak. If half the party or more using something, then it's probably overpowered. If you have 10 characters never been used, then it's probably underpowered a bit, or even considered. Then you can boost the
all
power.
that takes time.
Exactly. You need to do this over, meaning start thinking about the rules. Yeah. Sit down and rule of thumb. Every 10 game sessions, you should kind of start thinking, are there any rules I need to tweak? So take a routine of asking your players like every 10 sessions. Then you should start thinking, should I tweak it or something? And then run a mock test combat or something, just thinking when you tweak it. So, yeah.
So, Tim, give us some more thoughts here on some things you... I know you're like my non-area effect haste and slow was something that's not in your game. It still is that way, but it has worked in ours. It is because it has eliminated that part of the game that I really hated. Was that one?
It's not as I don't know. I just hasn't been well. One is I don't let people get it. I don't let It's not one of those, oh, you got this, you found a scroll with this on it. No.
Okay.
So they don't really learn it that much.
Right. Once they have it, they have it. That's the problem.
Yeah. And then, but what level is it?
Third.
Yeah, see, but there's way better stuff to take. You know,
you have 3 fighters in your group, and they're all double specialized. Haste.
Yeah, or if you're the bad guys, you know.
I understand that. That's where I wanted to get away from it.
Yeah,
and it's worked.
Yeah.
It's worked.
Yeah.
A dual wielding specialized fighter at 7th level is 7 attacks every 2 rounds. That's enough.
The goal of any conflict that you're in is to turn the enemy into the metaphorical baby harp seal.
Yeah.
So if you can go ahead and find a way
Mhm.
to get that advantage where you just totally pwn the opponent, that's okay. And sometimes that happens with the players. But most of the time, the players figure something out. Sometimes the bad guys can get it.
So I'm going to ask a 5th edition question for everyone who plays 5th edition. I'm not bashing. Are a majority of the games, in whether it's VTT or Theater or outdoor or indoor players, at a good mix? Because I'll say this: the tactics that we're talking about with ranged, with spells, and with bows, and with all other things, really made a whole bit of difference when we started playing on our tabletop miniatures outdoor with all those longer ranges. That is when you saw the glory of an archer or a magic missile spell, which is 100 plus 10 feet per level, right? Which is it's a good range for a 9th level caster. 190 feet, that's not bad, right? Fireball is 100 plus 10 per level, right?
Yeah, for something that automatically hits, yeah.
Lightning bolt, you can start and it goes 80 feet long. You know, so there's some really good. Once you see that on the table, oh my gosh, that guy's all the way on the other side of the table, and he's on top of that tower and he's shooting down. I think
call lightning.
Call lightning sight.
Mm-hmm.
And LJ, who has her Avenger, who has Call Lightning, boom. You know, that's why they call the group Nuclear Meat, because she's like the nuclear fire. Yeah. Thank you so very much for that. And outdoors is not yards, Jeff. It is not. It was, but not for me. It's all feet. It's all feet. I don't like the conversion to yards. It's all feet. It's always been that way. Mm-hmm. Good point. 5e.
My campaigns, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
In my campaigns, it's probably about 80% of combat is outside.
Okay.
There's certain environments, like when they go into a caves, that we had 5 sessions that were indoors, but most times it's outdoors, and even indoors the ranges are long because I'm not limited by a game table. So and my maps are big, so the engagement often starts with a lot of maneuvering and getting into position and stuff like that long before the encounter starts. My encounters usually starts when you can see each other. That can be out in the field, it can be horizon level, a mile away. So there's usually maybe 10 rounds, or sometimes I just simply, you start maneuvering over minutes before you get into so you can opt out or into combat before you get into it. So it's not pitted and then you have an encounter, so to speak, but occasionally you have an ambush and stuff, so then you're closer. But a lot of times you start out at ranges where ranged combat is the only option for a lot of time. So you have to dive to cover, you have to kind of start thinking tactically just to get into the fight. And then think about cover, meaning forest, and then using the environment. Should we go up the hill, up the slope and through the trees, or should we run down the slope much faster and use speed in order to engage the enemy or something like that? So a lot of things like that is probably way more common in my games than most other games. Yeah.
So I'm not Jeff and everyone. I'm not saying that my way or Tim's way is the right way. I'm just saying it's the way that I've developed over all these years.
Yeah, it's what suits your game table.
And the point I want to make is, if you go to yards, I have an 8 foot by 8 foot tabletop, and if you can cast a fireball 300 feet away. First off, how many people have that on a tabletop? if they're playing that style,
Yeah.
or
You should have
VGT.
small miniatures. You should have,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
should have
yeah,
tiny
yeah.
miniatures, and then you have a game table. So you start with that, and then you move into full-size miniatures
Yeah.
when you engage, so to speak, or something. But on the other hand, then you have to build the game table during the session, which is kind of difficult.
Theater of mind
especially when
has
you're
no
streaming.
boundary. Yeah, theater of mind has no boundaries too. But then
Yeah.
again, that's what I'm saying is that a lot of times you don't know where anyone is positionally there, and so spells just get cast off like
Well,
crazy.
I think when you start getting those ranges, you're artificially seeing people, because guess what? It isn't easy to see someone at 300 yards. It's hard,
yeah.
especially if they're trying
It's too
not to be
far.
seen.
Yeah.
And where are they? And they're woods, or
Yeah.
what's there? How much is the line of
It
sight?
just
What's
doesn't
the
work. It
ground?
doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
on that
Way
table.
harder to see people. I mean,
Yep. And
it's
it's
way harder to see somebody.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. Meaning, are you open on a golf course where the grass is like an inch tall, or in the forest with a lot of fern and bushes to hide behind, so to speak? So,
Yeah,
meaning
usually you
choose
can
the
hide by
path.
just taking a knee, and you're
Yeah.
almost invisible.
Mhm.
I mean, I have walked up to people, and all of a sudden they're 15 feet away, and I didn't
Yeah.
see them until I was 15 feet away.
Yep.
And the only thing, I mean, of course they were blending in.
Oh, but you can
close-wise.
hide behind hills and stuff
were
up
just
until
kneeling.
like
Yeah,
100 feet away.
all right.
Yeah.
Tim, digression time. Tell the story of when you came in and assaulted everyone at the house in Gloucester Township and we couldn't find you. You gotta hear this.
I was done Ranger school, right?
Yeah.
Is that when I came
Yeah.
back?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. I'd come back, and I knew they were over. I don't even know whose house that
Well, it was
was.
Walt's.
Walt's house, and they were playing D&D or whatever, and I was going to surprise them. So I think did I camo up?
Yeah, and you got what do you call it? Guns that shot something.
I got
ghillie
like
suit
water
and
guns,
stuff.
I think.
Oh.
I think I had water pistols. And so I knock on the door, and
Camouflage.
like the roommate like opens the door, and I'm like, shh, I want to surprise him. And he let me in
Still.
anyway. And I come in, and I go into the room,
We didn't know he was
shoot
coming.
everyone at the table with the water pistols, right? And then run out of the house. And they're all like, so they go all arm up with their various water guns, and they all go running, and they search for me for how long?
2 hours.
I was in the tree right over there.
He's in the tree. Yeah. I'm
Use
like,
the vertical. No one's
yeah.
back in there.
I'm like,
so,
oh
yeah.
my god, this is So the
And then-
Tim. Yeah.
Finally, when they were done searching, I
Yeah.
squirted, and I think I squirted you, and it was like coming
You're
down
like,
on
what
me.
the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
That
and
was funny.
Another trick you often learn in the middle: don't hide where it's obvious. Meaning, if there's a tree and
Military.
and a rock and open grass, don't hide by the tree or the rock. Hide 200 yards away in the tall grass somewhere, and then you have to go close in order to see it. And if you have grass that is like 2 feet high, and you have to be really close to see someone laying down, and if they then wear something that like a camouflage a little bit, you can go really close.
I actually ran out of the yard, and I actually was under a pine tree. It had very low branches, and I was
Yeah.
prone and under there for a while. And then when the area cleared out, I made a break for that little tree by the garage and climbed up and was perched on the edge of the garage roof behind the tree.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So you can the ranger ability to hide in plain sight can actually happen if you have the right, like a
That's why I
ghillie
was
suit,
telling the story.
and you
I
can
couldn't-
you
we
can
couldn't
just
find
lay
them.
down in grass, and you have to be 10 yards away, and otherwise you don't see them. Yeah.
It was at night, so it helped.
Mhm.
That
Oh
helped.
yeah. At night you can hide almost anywhere, but it's And dark vision, even in 5e, means that you have disadvantage on perception and stuff. So it's not the meet all end all perfect kind of replacement for regular vision. You still don't see as well.
Good times.
Absolutely a fun story. All right, so
Yeah, great story.
hey, good to see you, Folkamyth. So, for this discussion, just note we're not the be all end all. We're trying to relay, especially Tim and me playing together since we were little kids. What has happened in 40 years on figuring out how balance is is not a bad thing, but you as Punk Rock Jenny said, you want the classes to be different.
Yeah.
You gotta have quirks. You gotta have the mage worrying about running out of spells. You gotta listen to Ed Greenwood bitching about not resting, not being able to rest, because that's the fun and charm of the game, is that there's drawbacks to each class. The archer class is great, but if you get a freaking ogre that reaches him and charges, they're not very good combat wise. They're like the worst of the fighter classes in the game because they don't have weapon specialization. And they get 1 attack per round until 9th level, and they get 3v2. They're just terrible. So,
One-trick pony.
Yeah, one-trick pony, absolutely. And if you're using a monk can deflect them and charge them. So, monks are their bane. So there's all different balances and stuff, and that's what we're talking about. Enjoying the game. For me, it's enjoying the game and having the game flow. Right? And I'm not bashing Tim, but we used to have 3-4 hour combat rounds back in the day. Both of us.
I think that's exaggerated. He doesn't remember. It's gotten old. My ability to organize it has gotten better.
Yeah, the story goes like this.
Oh no! Forget the story.
We're playing at Tim's house. I think it's a Saturday night. And Alan goes, "I gotta go to church." All right. Yeah. He drives off. Comes back. I don't know how. 2 hours later, it's the end of the round that he left at.
That is, remember, for a good story, only 10% of it has to be good.
Yeah, but it sounds like 3rd edition because 3rd edition, the high level were like that. Yeah.
I don't.
He's
really
like,
remember.
you didn't even do a whole round. I was like, yeah. He can verify that one. So just trust me that we
probably stop.
One round, Michael. It was the same round. Yes. So those were the days. We've all been through there.
That's a rumor.
But it was fun. It's a learning experience, man. We all know.
There was a lot of people fighting.
There were Knights of the Eastern Sun. I remember it. There was 5 dragons and there was 5 cavaliers, one on each dragon.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, I remember.
Like a big fight.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Leuven's flying around in his broom of flying, and one of them breathes and he crashes. I remember that. I remember all that. See, that's the kind of stuff. That's the stories you have. So when rounds take many sessions, and you get a whole week of travel done in one sentence, the magic of D&D. Exactly. So just note, if you watch our games, especially our games with our special players and cons, boom, 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 boom. We get done roughly in a 4 or 5 hour period, 2 major combats, maybe 3. 2, and that's it. That's all you're going to get on a con or on a live stream for 4 or 5 hours. That's it. No matter what edition you're playing, all you're going to get is 2 to 3 at most combats. So just know that. So, Tim, what do you want to say in closing here, or any other topics? Any other questions? How about questions from the audience, real quick?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, any other questions or comments? Right. Just note, we always want to have these fun discussions now and then on stuff.
I don't know.
That was A2 for me.
If no one has a question, I have a point of view, and
please do it.
Early on, especially early on in D&D, it range weaponry is not frightening at all. In reality, range weaponry is terrifying. It always has been terrifying, always.
Yep.
And it creates this idea of I can run through everything and nothing hits me and I'm all good, which was terrible when we switched over to play Aftermath and somebody got shot with a 460 Magnum hunting rifle. Because they were running around like, oh
yeah.
And they took 10 die 10 damage, and it was like no one
blew the chest cavity right out. I remember.
Yeah, it was like, you can't run around like that.
Absolutely. Another game we got a live stream an Aftermath game.
We're gonna do it. We
have to do a live stream Aftermath game. It's so hysterical.
I have a zombie one.
Oh, beautiful. I'm in. Maybe add a couple audience people or whatever. Some people.
It's day 1.
Yeah.
So
twice. I'm fiddling with it. Yeah, that's a fun game. So Aftermath's awesome. So Tim's right. Make your that was the system we used when I came back to the hobby.
There should be some danger with the missile weapons, and I don't know the solution, but there should be some way for an arrow going. Oh, an arrow hit me. Oh, I'm just going to shrug it off. I'm like, nobody shrugs that off. It's like there should be that chance where something really bad happens, so everybody wants to avoid being hit, and then wants to use them on other people first.
Right.
That's what I think.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate all the input on this discussion, Tim. Thank you so very much. Because you and Anna come from the real military background, so where I'm just.
Oh yeah, you might run into a lot of missiles.
That's right.
Yep.
I look at it this way at this point: if she dies, she dies.
She can't die.
I know she can't die, but she's
Uh-oh.
13th level Cavalier. As long as I get to ride in my chariot, I want to bring the chariot out.
Oh man, it's one of my projects. I am making a chariot that's 4 horses.
Because I only got that 2-horse chariot thing.
That's not cutting it.
It took me 2 years to find that miniature and build.
I know. Well, I have to make the chariot. I've already
Okay.
made the.
Friendly Fire is too. Yes, Jeff. As we know, I love shoot. The possibility. Invest in a tower shield. It's hard to run around with a tower shield out there in combat.
Once you get to that 3-foot crawl space, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Or just even a 5-foot wide
Well, it's like
passage.
going around with the front door. It's a bit difficult over time. So, but if you're a dwarf, then you can do it.
If you have a magical one that slides in and fits,
yeah,
the space, fine.
Or you're a dwarf, you don't care. You can take it. Yeah,
That's true.
they're smaller too. So, yeah.
It's true, but it's a tough effect to incorporate when you're not incorporating that when a freaking 2-handed hammer hits you too. You know what I mean? It's one of those.
But
realism
missile fire,
versus
I
the
don't
game.
think should knock you down more than other. Meaning, hit by the mace or a club, great club should kind of knock you down too. So I don't think missiles. They can do a lot of damage, but often they can go straight through, so to speak. So
if you want to go nuts, this book has location charts for hits on all body parts, and that just like Aftermath does. Or Aftermath, I see the ability with guns, but I don't want to do that in my D&D, so I haven't incorporated it, and it's too much. It'll chunk the game too much.
Yeah, but you have other effects like hamper. You can slow down the movement rate or someone so they can't move. Yeah, exactly, hamstring and stuff. So you can do stuff like that too. So you can have other conditions that you can do, and knock down. That can definitely be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Lee, Warhammer, it's very vital because those are permanent injuries too. A lot of that stuff, right? With those guys, and then they go change the miniatures.
It's very difficult.
Yeah,
especially with the expanded wound rules and wound healing that I have.
Yeah.
And the gore factor is another thing that can be fun and add flavor to the game, so to speak, as much as the mechanics. Yeah.
Santa, what are your thoughts on this discussion?
Overall, through my years of playing in the various editions, I think that ranged combat has generally been a little bit overpowered, or sometimes vastly overpowered, but also underutilized. So I want to have more ranged combat, but a little bit less overpowered, so to speak. So that's the general rule. So a little bit more game balance, but still have it. And the game balance also works in many dimensions, meaning, is it always going to be like hit point by hit point mechanically balanced, or is it something that game balance mean that there are certain times when everything should be really useful and then it should be useless in other times? So game balance, there's many different dimensions for game balance. So it's a game balance over a campaign, over a session, over a combat, or is it just things should do the same amount of damage on average, no matter what it is, so to speak, like 4E balance. So it means different things are important for different groups, so to speak. So that means that in some areas, some things are game balance mechanically is really important, especially for combat heavy, and everybody should have fun. But also game balance over campaign is also interesting. So generally, I want more of ranged combat, but I want to tone it down in lethality a little bit, so to speak. Except in certain areas, I still want those massive assault of arrows out in the field, so to speak, with armies. So I want that I want that in my games, as well as sniping or shooting someone with a bow or a crossbow.
So, Dice Legends, wow, good to see you all.
Yeah, welcome.
Hope you're doing well.
Good evening.
Awesome to see you. Thank you so very much. That's fantastic. We're finishing up here talking about the art of balancing range combat. I got with me the ever mysterious Tim, who I've known for 44 plus years, and the legendary Anna B. Meyer. So please feel free to hang out and discuss a little bit as we're winding down here. Where do you see what's coming up for our fundraiser too? I got all the ads set and scoped here.
If you're new here, I'm the reason why Jay has been traumatized.
Well, that is true for all those years. Absolutely.
And I'm working on keeping him traumatized.
Yeah, well, it's okay. I mean, and I did play in Vahid's game a little while back, where we played all the same class, and that was hysterical. That was I think I had the archer/fighter type in that one.
Yeah.
If
Did you
I
have a
recall.
bard band once, or
I
that
think
was someone else?
It was the
Yeah, that
four
was
base
Mike.
classes. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the four base classes in that one.
Yeah.
So
I
that
think it was the Mike Bridges and his group. They had a bard band. Everybody played bards in the campaign.
Did you ever sign a winner, Vahid? I'm just curious if you did. Which is all good. I mean, I had a blast that time. We just finished
Sounds
it right
fun.
at the
Yeah.
end. So yeah, all got that 1,000-yard stare. Well, that's good, Jeff. But everyone comes back for more, and I'm assuming you're gonna be signing up. We'll talk about that too. Lots of good stuff coming up here. A bard band. Yeah, I couldn't do
Yeah.
it. I couldn't.
Yeah,
Fifth
I think
edition
it was
bard.
Mike
No.
Bridges and
Oh.
his game buddies
Wait.
that had a bard band, if I remember
So-
That's a great
correctly.
idea.
Here's the irony of
Yeah.
all ironies, and Vahid's going to laugh at this. Well, thank you, Realms. So Vahid, I'm like, oh, I get to play this archer fighter. He's got the bow and all. I go, thank God, because I have a thing where first edition, if you shoot in a melee combat, you can shoot your own people, and I know that doesn't
Mhm.
exist in 5e. And Vahid goes,
But it should.
but
be
I do.
something
I
different.
have it in
Yeah.
mind as a house rule. I'm like, you
Yeah.
gotta be kidding me! The only 5e game I'm ever going to play in, and you're
Yeah.
the only one. Yeah, I was like, oh my God. So that was freaking
Yeah.
hysterical.
But and
I
I'm
was
the
like,
one
oh my
that
gosh.
does it and suffer from that rule more than anybody. And I still think it's a good rule generally. So I think I want to introduce it, but maybe not as harsh, but a little bit like So I have to oversee the crits, but it should, or fumbles, but it should definitely be some.
Yeah. If you roll
risk
bad,
like that.
absolutely. Sit tight here because
Yeah.
maybe you see some of the stuff that's coming up here. So
Yep.
quick shout outs, Tim. What do you got going on besides the fundraiser? Because I'm going to talk about you real quick.
Oh, that's it.
All right, we'll get to you on that. So we got a ton of content. Anna, what do we got? You got a stream next Friday?
Yes, there will be one next
We'll do
Friday,
that one,
and I'm also working on a big technical article for my top patrons. I haven't done that in it's way overdue, and I have some really cool stuff to talk about from a technical perspective, and with a lot of implications for future work. So that is something I'm working on coming. And plus, we had our Need Fest festivities started. We had them earlier today, so there will
Nice.
be a menu, the royal menu from the Need Fest festivities in Critwall, $5.99. Is coming, and I got so hungry when I was halfway through, I had to go out and make dinner just to because I got so
Great.
hungry when I came up with all the yummy stuff. It's a 7-course meal. It's served with for the king of Furundi and the Katarina, the commander of Shields, and 1,000 guests and stuff. So it's the royal menu for with drinks and stuff. So I put together a 7-course meal, 7 or 8 or something like that. So it's with all the stuff. So I'm going to publish that and it's coming. So
Nice. That's awesome.
Otherwise, I'm just working really hard to have some really cool stuff to show at GaryCon, because you only get the chance to show off at the 50th anniversary of D&D once in your life. So
Yeah,
I
because
want to-
we
I
can't go
want
make
to have some
100.
cool. Yeah, so there's very little coming now, but there will be some cool stuff, and there's some really cool stuff in the works that haven't shown anybody yet. So
Awesome.
not even
up, Armin?
yeah. So it's coming. So it's kind of a little bit of a dry spell right now, but it's coming. Yep.
All right. So this is what's going on next 2 weeks.
Yep.
We're gonna get to 75. We'll see. We'll
see.
Yeah,
Yep.
let's get through 50 first. Wednesday night. It's going to be at 8, a normal time at 8, back to 8 this week because I can't make it at 7 because of real life stuff. So 8 to 10 Eastern. Deities and Powers of L's. Somehow we missed them. So we're going to do that. Anna and I are going to talk about it. We may have a special guest as well. There you go. So that is Wednesday. I'll have a normal game Thursday. I haven't finalized that yet. I may have a BattleTech game Saturday morning. We haven't finalized that yet. I got so much going on with real life.
Cool.
So yes, we may have a BattleTech game this Saturday coming up. Sunday. Well, the Gabbin Prelude show. This is this time front next Sunday. We're going to talk about the fundraiser for our 6th annual Greyhawk Make a Stream fundraiser. Remember, we got to surpass 25,415, which we raised last year. Every stream has confirmed, except Troll Lord, and I know Chuck will. So is going to be on
Good.
special guests. We're going to have them split into 2 hours. They're going to talk about what they're
Wow.
going to do during their streams. So we
Awesome.
got all this great stuff. Now Rob will be finishing up his. Rob has got 3 games coming up himself, separate because he can't do it, and he'll match up to $3,500 Okay, so Rob has got 3 whole games. Here's one of them. We're going to start advertising them. Here it is. This is the Saturday 6 p.m. one. Embers of Empire, Chains of Duty, Chains of Love, and here's all the great guests he has. He's got great guests, different ones for each of the 3 streams he's doing. He's doing a whole weekend of it. Like I said, dollar for dollar, he's matching up to $3,500. Let's get a real kick going, starting with Rob, starting next weekend. Okay. All right, so and we'll get those times and slots out. Lee, that's great to hear. So Rob will be done by the time this goes off. That's first. That is Sunday night. Next Sunday is the week before we start. Here are all the sponsors: Troll Lord, Will, Wicked Studios, Carlos, Gamescape 3D, Larry Elmore, 6 signed prints again. Reaper Miniatures, Infinite Dimensions Games, Frog God Games, plus a lot of stuff from the community. Like Troy's given me a Malden Greyhawk map, which is almost impossible to find. So we're gonna have all these great giveaways. We'll probably have around 50 to 70 again giveaways for and it'll be in order of donator. Highest donator gets to pick all and down until we get to a cutoff point. I think last year it was $75 to $90 was the cutoff point. If you did that much, you got something. All right, so that's where we are with that. Here's the schedule. I start 7:30. I'll raid into Carlos when he's done. This is with my friends, 7:30. Carlos is at 9. So we'll have a little bit of crossover. Carlos, I'll raid into him. It's good to have Carlos back. Saturday morning. Dudes, I didn't add Tim. Shit. I didn't add you yet, Tim.
What?
I forgot.
See?
Yeah. I got to add
You get punished the next.
No, that's Friday.
time
That's
you play
Friday.
team games.
I skipped
Okay.
Friday. Jeez. Folk and Myth, good to have you in for the first time. 10 o'clock. Steven Chenault DMing, 2 o'clock. Blue Box at 6. Still have 10 p.m. Friday night open if anyone wants it. Saturday. Tim, 6 o'clock in the morning with me playing in it. Yes, early. Gary Con Live at 10. Darling Creep Show at 2. My game at 6. We'll talk about that in a second. And Prayers Rejects at midnight.
I have a name for mine. It's
What's it called?
The Cavalier That Came to Dinner.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Oh.
That's me. That's me. Dervillia. Yeah, that's great. That sounds like, yeah. So this is a GaryCon Live game. We have 4 members of Legends of Evantress and AJ winners playing in the game. DM Garner, he's doing Hidden Shrine to Moacon. That's at 10. All right. Great group. First time GaryCon Live has participated in 6 years. Mayan Empire of the Sun. The prelude was yesterday, right? You saw all that. You saw a glimpse of the sun of Orcus and that great mini that Bill has put together. Ed Greenwood, Eric Mona, Darling Creepshow, Little Bird, Stephen Chenault, and Chuck Cumbo of Troller Games. What a group. And that's at 6 p.m. on Saturday evening, February 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then Sunday's group, Stronghold. I have an early morning session if anyone wants it, 10 o'clock in the morning. Stronghold at 2. We got a little bit of crossover with David Guild Superior, who starts at 3. And then the Gabbin wrap-up show is in this time slot at 7, 2 weeks from. And then we're done, and hopefully we'll surpass 25,000 for 15 at that point. Deep breath. Then we can work. Then I can concentrate on GaryCon after all that. So, yep.
I was looking at the bad guys today, Jay, and looking at some of their abilities, and I got slightly nauseated.
You're not going to scare me, because if she dies, man. I play her once every 2 years, right?
Well, there's some things worse.
Yeah, there's some things worse than death. Oh, great. Yeah, it's Sunday, by the way, Lee. It's Sunday morning. I need a stream for Sunday. So let's do the giveaways. Do 2 giveaways. Thank you all. Look at that. We got a large crew. I turned my light off. It's bothering me. So let's see who wins. Okay.
Yep.
I know tickets for Founders go on sale that Saturday. Remember, I'm running Thowers in 3 straight days. It's Founders and Legends. All right. I'm hitting the wrong buttons everywhere here. Let's call. For you to giveaway. Exclamation point drawing. 2 set. We'll do 2 2 different winners. If you haven't gotten Treasures of Greyhawk, now's the time to get it. I have one Raven's Rook from Will left still. I have a Fiend Folio, a Scarlet Brotherhood, Lost Caverns of Shokanth, Shattered Circle, L3, L1, U1, U2. You got your whole pile of really good stuff here. So, Joe, you're in. I saw you in there. I'm going to close it out. Here we go. Let's see who wins. You just got to get with me, and I'll try and get them out tomorrow because I'm going to be working on my home office for the first hour, so I can probably do it. All right, giveaways, closing it out. Let's see who wins. First winner, GD, Chris, TDRFB, 1995. Congrats. Second winner. And then we're going to raid into Darling, okay? Darling is streaming during the fundraiser as part of the legendary Slav Squad. Caesar. Oh, my gosh. Some oldie but goodies. Awesome. Guys, get with me. You know the routine. Nice job. Good to see everyone. Had over 100 people on most of the night. It's fantastic. Anna, Tim, thanks. What a great discussion. Tim, by the way, you're welcome on. You're welcome next week on if you want to come on like first or second hour to talk about your game. You're welcome on that too. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. To discuss it. So
the guest player will be Patrick and an unknown player.
Well, I thought you told me who the other person was.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
I'm saying it for.
Oh, Canadian Gamer's playing? Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Is he playing Gorbag the controller?
No, I can't. That's Gorbag.
Oh, man.
Flavius, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, he's playing Flavius.
Flavius.
Patrick, I get to boss you around. Flavius is my henchman. Oh, that's awesome, Patrick. You're in trouble. Die for me.
Dervilia loves Flavius.
I do, because he's always in the chariot. I'll show you the pictures of him. Yeah.
He's a badass.
He is a badass. Absolutely.
He wants a promotion though.
Well, he can talk about that in roleplay here.
Yeah, so does Gorbag.
That's fine, man. We can do all that. I don't want to, I'll talk to you off camera in a second here about that. Let's get through this. Yeah, please, feel free to follow the channel. Once again, we're always here. And note, I'm always open. Advice, questions. If there's something you want, as long as it's not going in the Altamir box set for Troller Games, I'll be more than willing to share it. There's stuff already in publications and Earth journals, or in other places that I've already put out there. So just note. If you want the critical hit tables, I'm more than happy to give them out. Just, not Tim's, but mine. As long as you just say where you got them from, it's cool. Sharing everything here. See you all Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, not 7, 8 p.m. EST. And, of course, thank you, GM. All right, see you all soon. Who's winning the game, by the way? Curtis, who's winning?
Uh-oh.
It's Buffalo and the Chiefs. I'm just curious. Oh, you gotta be kidding. KC? Oh, man. I wanted to see a Buffalo Detroit Super Bowl. Oh, sorry, Curtis. I want to see a San Fran Super Bowl. The Cowboys. That's funny, Jeff. That's awesome. I just want to see two teams, at least one team in there that hasn't ever won it. All right, setting the rate up. Say hello to Darling. If I hit the man, give me a second. I hit the wrong freaking button.
Oh.
I went to the wrong screen. I went to the wrong damn screen.
That's a button.
Wrong button.
It's me being stupid.
Yep, we have to have the wrong button emotes.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Scottis. Yeah.
5, 4. Look at that, over 100. 3, 2, 1. See you Wednesday. Have a good evening.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks.
Wow.
That's awesome.
104.
Yep. Good one.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I hope people